I've never felt more alive than when I was providing, service and aid to others, especially on those missions. I felt more like I was right back in the military again. That mindset of I'm helping, I'm doing something. Everyone around in the country is saying, I wish I could do something for those families, but I'm one of the few that's able to do something.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming to the Not So Special Forces podcast. This is episode number 3. I have the distinct pleasure and the honor of introducing to you all a former U.S. Marine, a man who has spent most of his life after the Marine Corps in preserving the legacy and the memories of others. So for me to have the opportunity to preserve his legacy and his honor, it is truly a proud moment for me. So let's go ahead and get you introduced to a man that we are thrilled to have here today in the Not So Special Forces podcast, and that is Alan Stinar. Alan, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, you and I have been going back and forth a couple weeks, texting. We had a couple late night conversations about getting you here today. So I'm glad we were able to get the schedule set and to get you here, man. I'm absolutely thrilled. And like I told everyone, after you got out of the Marine Corps, man, you went out, you started doing a lot of videography for other people, and some of the work you've done. I've seen the movies, I've seen the documentaries that you've done, and I think you're owed to have your story told. So that's why that's why those of us here at the podcast and those of us at the Miles Gregarius Foundation are thrilled to have you here, man. So thank you so much. Thank you, Alan.
I appreciate it.
All right, man. So let's get this started. Former Marine, you did a lot with your life. So let's take it. Let's go to the beginning. Where are you from? What prompted you to join the Marine Corps? Tell me about your family, tell me about your childhood, and tell me about your upbringing, and then, that sort of thing.
I grew up in Hibbing, Minnesota, roughly an hour or so south of the Canadian border, mining town, a lot of blue-collar workers, harsh winters almost every year. I've literally skated to school a few times when I was in high school. My dad, talk about joining the Marine Corps, my dad was a Marine. He was a 0311, so the stories I heard from him when I was really young, and there's even a picture of me and wearing his dress blues, and I was probably like 8 years old.
Fantastic.
Wearing it for Halloween one year, wrecking his dress blues.
What era did he serve in?
He served from 81 to 85.
Okay.
Yeah, he got out a little after I was born.
Okay.
Hearing his stories about Okinawa and the Philippines and being on a boat and all of those things I was interested in doing as well. I want to go see the world, want to go do the same stuff and more than my father did. And of course, 9/11 kicks off. We watched the second plane hit the World Trade Center in my history class, in Mrs. Collins' class. And she started crying and saw me and my friend Craig, and she just knew, because we already talked about joining the Marine Corps, that this was going to be it. And as soon as I could, on my 17th birthday, I went to the recruiter and said, I'm ready to do this. Let's just sign the paperwork now, which is, I don't know if you knew him, but my recruiter was, at the time, it was Staff Sergeant Dan Schaefer.
No, it's not familiar. Dan Schaefer. No, I'm sorry.
Well, talk about foreshadowing. He was a flight mechanic for the C-130s.
Okay.
So, I had no idea at the time. I wanted to be 0311 like my dad, and he advised me to not do that. He said that there's not too many jobs out there for a grunt. Pick something else. And he said something that stuck with me, especially for the Marine Battle Hurt Project, which was, find a job that'll take you places. And man, did I.
Yeah, that's good advice.
C-130s go everywhere and a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, I remember after I moved out of the out of Second Marine Division into the Hurt community, I was like, damn, we used to sing a lot of cadences about C-130s being on the strip, rolling somewhere, and you get there and you're like, fuck yeah, they do. So you definitely had the opportunity. We definitely had the opportunity to go see the world, and any given week we were someplace else. That was good foreshadowing on his part about being able to see a lot of different places.
It was a tough time in a way, because all of our instructors at boot camp, they had all already been to Iraq or Afghanistan or had been in for a little while. And they harped it really hard that, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You're all going. This is 2000. I went to boot camp in July 2003. This is barely after we went, invaded Iraq. So there was a really high chance of anybody in my platoon of going. And the majority of my platoon were all 0311s or some fashion of infantry.
All right. So so what year did you graduate and what year did you attend boot camp then? I'm sorry.
I graduated high school in 2003 and I went to boot camp in San Diego in July. So like a month.
San Diego. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And how'd you fare during boot camp? How was that? Was everything you thought it would be? Were you thinking about some of the stories that your father told you and looking for similar experiences? How'd you do?
It was exactly the way I anticipated. He said that it's, as long as you understand that it's going to be very challenging and more of it is mental than it is physical.
Oh yeah.
So as long as you understand that, you'll get through it just fine. I mean, I understood that most of the, our barracks getting torn up and everything else, that this is all it's part of the game. Like we're just get through the day. Today is for them to get fucked up. So let's just get through it and move to the next phase.
So after boot camp, you did the normal Marine combat training, and then what was your MOS? Where did you go after Marine combat training?
After MCT, I went to Naval Air Station Pensacola for a fixed wing aircraft mechanics school for the A school.
Okay. All right. So Millington, Tennessee was closed by then?
I'm not sure if it was closed by then. I didn't even know anything about it at the time.
Okay.
At that point, everything for our MOS was all out of Pensacola.
Okay.
And I was selected for the prop strand, so I just knew that it was going to be more than likely C-130s.
Okay. All right.
Which is not what I wanted. I wanted to be I wanted to do fighter planes like F-18s and stuff like that.
Harriers. Okay.
Yeah, I had no idea that. That could have been fun, but this was going to be C-130s was a lot funner.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking back, how blessed were we? What a privilege, man, to be part of that community. So,
oh God, no, a plane broke down in Hawaii. They need 2 mechanics to go fix it.
Yeah. Oh, gee. Yeah. Yeah. We're broke down in Barcelona, Spain. It's going to take us 3 days to get this one part. Yeah. Tough. So good times. Good times is a benefit of having those good ASVAB scores, I guess, huh?
Yeah. I don't even remember what I got on the ASVABs and stuff like that. It was good enough that I could do pretty much whatever.
Okay. All right. So Pensacola, you go through school. How long were you there for? Do you remember?
Got there in October, I think it was October 03, left in early January 2004. From there, went straight to Cherry Point for C school for KC-130 specific training.
All right. Yeah, that track sounds a little bit different because when I lat moved, they sent us to Millington, Tennessee, and then I went out to El Toro, and then I think we had a couple classes up in Tustin before they shut that down. But the majority of our 6016 and training for the Hercs was out there at the old El Toro. So yeah, so it sounds like things have definitely changed, and I went through there 10 years before you did. I think at 93-ish, I started the whole 94. I started the whole lat move into the 60-16, 60-30 realm back then. So yeah, things had definitely changed. So how was Cherry Point, man? You start learning how to turn wrenches and and everything about that Allison, huh?
It was boring and fun at the same time. Boring because we weren't allowed to even be in a car to go anywhere. Couldn't even get a ride. We were allowed to use taxis to go to like the Walmart, which is 25 miles away, but everywhere else you had to walk. For the flight mechanics, they were day crew for instruction when they were going through the Powerline MOS. And for pure Powerline, we were night crew, so we went to school in the evening.
Okay.
And the instructors, I don't remember all their names, but they were pretty phenomenal and had a lot of experience. Like looking back, they had an immense amount of knowledge, not just because of teaching it, but because of doing it.
Yeah. Now, was this with VMGR T253 at the time, or was this with VMGR 252?
Neither. It was just the schoolhouse itself for, what was it? The schoolhouse name. They were nicknamed the Owls. But we did use, aircraft to kind of do some practical application on between the 252 and the 253 hangars. Like hanging a prop or doing certain maintenance. It's like that. They were used as our examples for our practical testing and whatnot.
Okay. All right. So how long ago was that entire process for you, learning, and how long did it take you to graduate from that school?
That was January to April because I spent my birthday here.
Okay.
And I got promoted about the same time to Lance Corporal.
Okay.
Yeah, so almost 3 months.
Okay. All right. So you finish that, you get promoted to Lance Corporal, and then what's your first squadron? Where do you end up?
So I was told that when you put down your three favorite, the duty stations, you put down where you don't want to go first because they'll think you're nuts, and then they won't pick that for you. They'll send you somewhere else. So I didn't want to go to Okinawa first. I would have rather gone to California. That's not how that works. Yeah, they saw the first, number 1, Okinawa, 2 was San Diego, and 3 was Texas. And the monitor saw that, went, oh, he wants to go to Okinawa. Yeah, you're going. So
ask and ye shall receive.
Yeah, I spent 10 days at home, and then I shipped out for the Rock.
How was that?
I loved it, actually, to be honest. I was on 1-year orders each time. I was there for 3 years, 1-year orders each, and got the little bonus for staying longer and whatnot. I went all over the island, got to buy the infamous Skyline, and try to learn how to drift and learned how to be horrible at it.
You had a hell of a time doing it, though, huh? Learning?
Yeah, and getting to the squadron and getting, being the new guy, the boot for the first time, and every shit job is now my job.
How did they, other than being a new guy, with responsibility and learning to go, how do the guys take you in there in Okinawa? I mean, you and I know what it's like being a new guy anywhere in the Marine Corps, but were they, besides the ridiculing and the quote unquote hazing or the Nicky New Guy bullshit we all went through, was there a genuine care for your success? Was there genuine care that they wanted to bring you up to speed?
The name shall be changed to protect, to protect their lack of innocence. But it was learning by the hard way. If you weren't going fast enough, you were getting a screwdriver to the back of the head, tapping you on the cranial, telling you, hurry up. I want to go home. Keep moving, that kind of thing. Some mistakes were some very hard learned mistakes, but they were all pretty rock solid. And I will point out, and I'll make sure I have to send the link to this video to him. My mentor in a way when I first got there was a guy by the name of Marcus Whitfill. He took me to good old Coco Ichibanya, and the heat levels of their curry. He told me that like heat level 10 is mild. Everything's backwards in Japan. That's why you drive on the other side of the road. So 10 is mild, 1 is really hot.
I got a feeling you got set up on this.
Oh man, I could have set fire to my shorts with how hot that stuff was when it came out later. It was so bad. And he had a good laugh out of it. I still tease him about it to this day.
Is it true what they say about Okinawa? I remember the rumor was 3 things happened. You turn into a PT freak, you turn into an alcoholic, or you find Jesus. Did all that fare out to be true for you?
All of that never happened. Not to me. Because, we're C-130s. We don't PT. We already carry 100-pound toolboxes around the flight line.
Right.
Because we didn't have fancy carts to tote them around.
No dragon wagons doubled up on the batteries, nothing like that?
And I couldn't drink. I was underage, and the fear of God had been put in me by the CO, Colonel King, and he flat out said that if you're going to do it, then do it behind closed doors and nobody can catch you. But if you get caught, there's no one's going to protect you. Right. Because if I don't burn you, then Colonel Busby's going to burn you.
How was the camaraderie there in Okinawa with everyone in the HER community? Were you guys pretty tight? Were there a bunch of ragtag guys doing their own thing, coming together for the job, or how was it?
Yeah, I'd say it was really tight. We had the smoke pit behind Barracks 460 was always, someone's playing on a guitar and somebody's grilling up something. A flight crew would come back from Wake Island with a cooler full of already filleted fish. Oh, great. I'll just slap it on the grill. Let's go ahead and cook it now.
Yeah, it's like being at 252 when the guys would come back from Maine and have a couple coolers full of lobsters.
Yep. For the quote-unquote logistics runs, right?
Yes.
You got to get that flight time. It just happens to be in a place that sells lobster.
Yeah. Good times.
In the back of the day, they had those logistics runs down to Puerto Rico and just always came back for the rum.
Right.
Yep.
They were talking about maybe having to hide some stuff in the center wing panel, in the football panel up there between the inboard tanks too, if need be, depending on where you're coming back from, if the MPs were to meet you or not. But we shouldn't divulge secrets like that if they're still going on.
Yeah, I'm not going to divulge those secrets. That's for people like you and customs to figure out on your own. Okay.
So Okinawa, man. Good. I mean, good time. When did you start flying? Were you were you an FM? Were you a flight mech at this time? Or no?
No, I was power line. So the only time I ever got to fly is if something broke, and there wasn't too many times of that. I had to fly out to Thailand for the tsunami support stuff, but that's when I was fapped out to the Air Force over at Kadena, supporting them and whatnot. But other than that, we also flew out to Thailand like 2006 and 3. Our famous, Mama Herc, as you know, she broke down in Thailand, and so we flew out there on aircraft 14 to go fix a pitch lock regulator. Broke 14 when we got there, fixed 573, and then flew home 2 days later. Experiencing Thailand as its own rite of passage.
I never had the experience.
I didn't do nothing crazy. I could say that with all honesty, but that's a weird place. That is a really weird place to go. When the sumos have their own bar in Pattaya, Thailand, and the owner knows pretty much everybody by face. When we had a loadmaster, he got super drunk and he was like, I want to buy an all teak carved head of an elephant, and didn't think nothing of it. And then the day that we're leaving, we hear like, what the hell's that? And open up the ramp and door, and there's Wana backing up to our C-130 in the flight line, and she's got this completely carved head of an elephant out of teak wood.
That is fantastic.
Like, what the hell's that? Dude, that's yours. I didn't. Yeah. I'm not paying for that. No, you told her.
Yeah, we had
make those kinds of bets here.
We had something similar when we were in Dakar during one of the dead alphas that 252 was part of, and then we had a pretty senior flight engineer make a request, and sure enough, that guy. I remember the conversation. The guy was bragging about this wood carving. It was going to be an ebony wood, and the guy goes, "Look, motherfucker, I don't care if you make it out of plywood. Just show up before we leave." And then sure enough, the guy showed up to the gate of the Air France hangar where we were at, and he was getting our attention. I think the engineer. We'll talk offline on who it was, but yeah, man, the guy drove it out to the aircraft, and he got a badass wood carving. Man, it was like 2 heads, and looked like ebony wood, but all the shoe polish that was rubbed on it was coming off on his flight gloves. But I think he traded it like a couple package of batteries and maybe 2 cartons of Winston's for it, man. The Manfrecanis love their Winston's, so I think that's what he ended up paying for him. So similar stories, different squadrons, but it's one of those legacy things, man, that probably hopefully still continuing today, man, the bartering for stuff.
Oh, I'm sure it still is. I mean, I paid for a taxi in the Philippines to go to the mall outside of Clark with 2 bottles of water and an MRE. And
fantastic.
The driver didn't even care which one it was, so I just grabbed my choice of the nastiest MRE in the box and handed it to him. But he was super happy.
Yeah, you probably gave him the omelet, right?
I don't know if we had the omelet at that time.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a bunch of other ones I wasn't a big fan of. It's just you just grab one and give it to him because we had that stuff dropped off to our villas every day, so it didn't matter. It wasn't money.
Yeah, we had something when we were spending a lot of time in Africa, just trying to get the hydrants hooked up to take fuel on. I mean, like, look, man, I don't have any more fucking flight gloves to give you. I need a pair. I don't have any more AA batteries to give to you. How about you just hook the fucking hydrant up or freaking drag your ass underneath the airplane, and that's where they're going to find you. So, yeah, the bartering thing going around the road in some of these third world countries, man, it's a real thing. What we had to do to keep that airplane flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the Philippines, on night crew while we were there, we had this one fuel truck driver that was always asking for glow sticks, and eventually we just asked, like, what do you want the glow sticks for? And he was telling us this story how when he was done fueling up all the planes, he went home and he's got a small farm, and he used the glow sticks to hang in the fence to see his property lines while he's working the fields at night under the stars, because he was working his butt off doing that and then the fuel trucks to try to afford enough money to send his son, who just got his doctor degree, to send him and his son and his new wife to the States, and eventually they could emigrate, get their green card, get their citizenship, and then have the rest of the family move over. It's like, man, this guy is like working his butt off for glow sticks.
Yeah,
that's more than
he got those glow sticks, didn't he?
Yeah,
scrounging them up. Yeah, start scrounging them up.
He took care of us, because I'd heard how the Filipinos, they don't mess around when it comes to crafting stuff. And I said, could you get me like a ship in a bottle, something like that made? And he's like, I could find somebody. What kind of bottle do you want? I don't care, just like a whiskey bottle. So I gave him my Filipino cell phone they had, those, it was like one of those little Nokias, those indestructible Nokias. And he called me like 3 days later and he said, hey, I found one. It's going to cost a lot of money though. How much we talking? The guy says he wants $20. Okay. Tell him deal.
$20 seems like quite the stretch, but I think I can flip for it. I'll make it work.
Oh yeah. I gave that field truck driver, he paid for it, but I paid him back the $20. And then I gave him like another $20 as a tip, which he tried to refuse. Like, no, you went out of your way to go find whoever could make this. They're remarkable at the things that they can do for what appears to be a primitive culture, but it's really not. It's just that's just how they live.
So how much now was this all during your first run in Okinawa at 152, or was this your second year, your third year, something like that?
Let's see. I got there in 04, 05. So that was my third year. That was like the beginning of my third and final year in Okinawa.
Okay. Now, had you deployed anywhere during all this time? Did you take off?
At that time, at that time, 152 was not deploying anywhere to like the Middle East. They were completely focused on everything going on as usual with like North Korea, China, anything in the Pacific. That was their thing. Okay. So at that time, 152 was not deploying whatsoever to the Middle East. I don't think they deployed to the Middle East until like 2008, 2009, I'm thinking, is their first deployment to Iraq, Afghanistan.
Okay. Now, how was the turnover? Did you guys have a lot of people coming out of 152, making their way to 252 and 352 and 234 and whatnot, who had already deployed to Afghanistan or had already had time in, did you guys have any type of turnover? People wanting to leave 152 to make it to Afghanistan or Iraq?
At that time, I don't even really remember. I didn't really pay attention to it much. That people would rotate out and they'd get sent to other squadrons. A lot of the folks, at least from my shop, I never really even saw them again. I mean, I think I saw one, Voorhees. I think I saw him later on when he was one of the lead instructors at the J model school. But I didn't really see anybody again. I saw more of the aircrew later on. I saw them at 234 and I saw them at 252.
Okay. All right. So what year did you leave Okinawa? Where did you go after that?
Like February or March 2007, left to go to VMGR 234 down in Fort Worth, Texas, which was my all-time favorite squadron out of the three that I served in. Man, it was so good to be in a reserve squadron as an active duty guy. It was so relaxed. So what shop were you in? It's still Powerline all the way through.
Okay. All right. So now at the time when you left, were the because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the J models, they started making their way in. Because the J model was like, I got out in 99, and that's when the J models, I think in 98, 99, that's when they started showing up from Lockheed, say, hey, this is what's happening. There's not going to be any more flight engineers. We're going from a 5, 6, 7-man crew down to a 3, 4-man crew. So your time in Okinawa, did the J model show up at that time?
No, our squadron at the time was avoiding. As far as I know, we were the last on the list to get the Js. And so we had all the F and R models, 70s and 60s and 70s model aircraft.
Right.
As 252 and 352 were getting their Js, they were sending their legacies, basically west. They were sending them to 352, and then eventually they started sending those over to us.
Okay.
And I didn't even see the J until I got to Cherry Point, because it wasn't even at Texas while I was there.
Okay.
But like you said, we were getting spooled up on the differences, not of like the airplane to us as mechanics, but like the air crew. We thought it was weird that you're not going to have like a flight mechanic or a flight engineer. It's going to be a crew chief. Then they do both functions. That's odd.
Yeah. The first time I saw a big aircraft without a flight engineer, I was in Rota, Spain. And it was the first time a C-17 went translant like on its own. And it landed in Rota. And I'm out there, we're, wiping the airplane down, fueling it, doing it, whatever. And, I'm standing out there. I got, thumbs up, wingtip to wingtip, as they pull in and it shuts down and we're like, man, that thing is beautiful. What is it? And one of the guys was like, I think it's that new C-17, and we'd never seen it. So we went over, we shook hands with the crew, welcome to the road, and said, hey, can we take a look? And I remember climbing up into the flight station, up into the cockpit, and I'm looking around. I'm like, where's the flight engineer sit? And this freaking cocky pilot, co-pilot, whatever he was, he goes, oh, we have this MFD right here that keeps track of all of our tools for us. We don't need a flight engineer anymore. I was like, that was the first time I saw it. And then, I eventually get to the airlines, and then the aircraft we had started, we started bringing new 747-400s in it. They didn't have flight engineers on them. So just technology and systems and computers and all that just, help fade out a very, very important, very, very legacy-filled job.
I mean, with it being more digital and there's a lot of other functions built into it that the flight engineer would manage, it's somewhat understandable that that position went away to a point. Not anymore. The flight engineers are back in a different way, but they're back.
Yeah, good. So, and then I also remember a comment being made because when the J model first showed up, one of the old legacy flight engineer guys got out and became a tech guy at Lockheed. And he seemed pretty proud that there wasn't a flight engineer on the J model. And I remember some of the flight engineers there, man, they were giving him a hard time, man, about talking about designing themselves out of a job. And he seemed pretty proud that there wasn't an engineer on those new J models. I remember the ribbon he got, man. And I just stayed in the back scratching my head because there's way too much experience for me to splash into that conversation, man. So
yeah, for some reason, the name escapes me. He was the CEO of 352 when they went to Desert Storm, but he was the chief test pilot for the J model program. And he said that the J model only requires a dog and a pilot.
Jesus.
The pilot's job is to feed the dog. The dog's job is to bite the pilot if he touches anything.
Unbelievable.
Because it's a highly advanced aircraft, especially at that time when it was coming out, that a lot of those functions that piloting requires, a lot of that's already in the computers. So now you're changing it from managing all of this stuff down to kind of monitoring what the data says, and it's keeping check of all that stuff.
Right.
You don't necessarily need an engineer to constantly have eyes on like a torque meter to see if it's dropping off and it's not supposed to. When there's limits already built in, and when it hits a limit of anything, it will tell you. It has all these bells, sounds, whistles, and that voice that will tell you that something's wrong.
Yeah. No more fuel management, man. Looking up and checking the trim, making sure the airplane's wings are still level and balancing and transferring fuel. I mean, the computer's got it, right?
I mean, man, just the fuel thing alone made me happy as a power liner because we gas up the airplanes. In the Legacy, if I was by myself, I would have to run between the back the right-hand parachute door up to the flight station to flip switches on and off there, but then also flip them in the back. On the J model, I turn a dial to what I want. I want 6,000 pounds across the whole wing. Just set it 66666, 36 across, and then press the buttons to open up the valves and give a thumbs up at the window and take a nap.
Yeah,
but they still when it hits 6,000 pounds, it auto shuts that valve, and the tank is now done filling. And it'll go dink dink. It's like, man, this is much better. Now,
your time there at 230, with the J model, were they still using Excalibur to dip the tanks to back up the gauges or no?
Not that I recall.
No. Yeah, that's something that is something I'll never forget. At the time, you got all this technology. You got the single point refueling panel. You're gassing up and you can't trust the gauges, so go up there with a wooden stick that looks like a sword and dip it in the tank, and then see how much fuel's in there. And you're like, "Yep, the gauges are good." I forgot what the limits were, for how much could be on the stick, and then how much could be on the gauges and all that before you had to write it up. But,
right. And then checking the lean to see how it's leaning, which way it can only have so much of a degree of lean.
Yep. And getting a couple of guys to rock the airplane to break the tension on the landing gear so the wings would level out. You hope it would level out instead of working against you.
Right, and trying to get the struts to pop. That way it fixes the lean, or now you got to go do it again to put it back.
Yeah, crazy times, man. It's cool having this conversation, man, looking back, so thanks. So, all right, so you're in Texas, 234. You guys got the Legacy aircraft there. What was the tempo like? What was day-to-day, any deployments, anything like that?
I mean, so it was kind of crappy because about to leave Okinawa, the monitor asked me, you've spent 3 years here. What do you want to do? I said, send me to the first squadron going to, on deployment. I've done 3 years without it. The general, the commandant had already said, if you haven't gone, prepare to go. Well, I'm ready. Send me to the next unit. He goes, great. I'm sending you to 234. So I get to 234 and I'm like, all right, boys, when's the next deployment? When are we going? They're like, what are you talking about? We just got back like a couple months ago. Okay, so what, like another 6 to 8 months, then we're leaving? He goes, no, like 5 years from now. because they're reserve unit. They can only be activated for so long, and then there's a period of adjustment in between the next like deployment. And it was going to be a while.
That is something
so I got screwed by the monitor. Yeah,
that is something I did not learn, and I had Jeremiah Howe on the last episode. I was not aware. My entire time was active duty. I was not aware, and I know you were active duty, but you were at the reserve squadron. I was not aware that there's like laws written about how often and when reserve units can deploy. That blew my mind learning that on the last podcast. I just didn't know. I thought if there's shit going on, you were a reservist, active duty at our whim. I didn't know that. So to hear that it also affected the air wing and the Reserve 130 squadrons, man, I never knew it. That's crazy.
Yeah. So we just spent all of our time, just whatever this flight schedule was, we supported it. And we had our, the annual trainers once a year go out somewhere and, fix the planes while the reservists take control for like 2 straight weeks to manage everything. Now it was a different tempo because it was, once a month we had the reservists where they came in and ran the show. And it was a little bit more of, they had dental, they had this, they had that, and they had the formation. So we did a lot more of the work while they managed stuff to kind of get their feel on that weekend. Between the active duty and the active reserve guys, we were there full time.
Okay, so when it was their drill weekend or their 2 weeks with the airplane, were you guys letting them loose on the airplane and monitoring and making sure that the safety wiring was done correctly and things were within specs, or were you guys actually
they took control of the maintenance? Yeah, they took control of like maintenance control, and they were doing more of the lead stuff. And then it didn't matter if you were a reservist or active duty. If you did work and it had to be CDI'd, then you went and got a CDI. Didn't matter who it was.
Okay. All right. So how much time did you spend at 234 before you left, or did a deployment come in before then?
Now, there's no deployments because they couldn't go anywhere. So it was just 3 years there as a active duty guy at a reserve unit, working amongst some of the finest individuals I ever worked with at the squadrons. And went to bat for me because I was coming from the FNRs, now working on the T model C-130s, and still kind of getting I was a corporal at the time, and I was kind of getting my bearings as an NCO versus just being a corporal. The difference between rank and leadership, and learning from them. And I was originally recommended verbally to not be promoted for sergeant. I was up for promotion. I could, but then angry Johnny Sabarese stepped in and said that I deserved it and gave an explanation why. And then it went through and I got promoted to sergeant.
How'd you take that? Did anything change for you leadership wise or job wise? Were you more of a management type then, or nothing really changed, just in charge of the shop, or what?
I mean, I had more duties because I was a sergeant. Yeah, I got indoctrinated into, now that you're a sergeant, now it's different. Alfredo Guerrero made damn sure of that to try to keep me in line, to teach me how to be a sergeant. And especially I wasn't even a CDI yet. I was never a CDI on the legacy. So he kind of put that on me more, that, if you're not going to be a CDI just yet, then you got to be a better NCO. Kind of learning the ropes.
What you think? Was being a Marine Corps sergeant everything you thought it would be? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, yeah. Especially since I spent 7 years as a sergeant. So.
Okay. Kick ass. So NCO school, anything like that? Sergeant school, anything?
As required, I did the sergeant's distance education course. I did that through Okinawa when I was out there.
Okay.
Never went to actual sergeant's course. There was never any billets or boat spaces to, go to that school. It was so rare.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough when I was into, and it was right down to Camp Lejeune, going from Havelock, going from Cherry Point down to Camp Lejeune. But that was a great course for us, man. I look back and I'm glad I had the opportunity to go. So 234. How long did you spend there total?
3 years. Yeah,
3 years.
I left in 2010.
All right. So what was going on this entire time? I'm sorry, maybe it's something I should have asked previously. Did you get married, kids, anything like that at all during your time in Okinawa or at 234 in Texas?
I got married to my first wife while I was stationed in Okinawa. She was in S4, so she was in the same squadron.
Okay.
In Texas, we had our first daughter, was born there in Fort Worth.
Okay. And then what happens after 234?
So while I was at 234, I got into a car accident. A drunk driver hit me on the Marine Corps birthday in 2008 or 2009. And I had some spinal injury So I had to be put on narcotics medication to, come out of all that stuff and the injuries and whatnot. And so I got stuck in tool room because you can't work in the flight line under the influence of narcotics. I kind of lost my train of thought. It made it harder because I was trying to get out after that, I was trying to get out of 234, not because of the squadron, because the base medical was so bad, so horribly bad. I mean, if I had not watched myself, they would have easily put me onto the route to addiction. I was taking like 9 pills every 4 hours, and most of them were the same drug, different name. It was bad, really bad.
It's the same fucking stories that we're hearing about until a couple of years ago, right? With all the guys coming back. It's just like the DOD medical and, Navy medicine just wanted to keep everyone fucking medicated, man. So,
oh yeah, I was like a zombie. I mean, I'd be in the tool room trying to hand out tools, and I'd just be cracked out of my mind on like 3 or 4 different narcotics, muscle relaxers, and all this other stuff. I was getting shots of Toradol once a week for over 6 months, which is dangerous, really dangerous.
Now, you mentioned you got into the accident on the Marine Corps birthday. Was it a fellow jarhead that hit you, or was it just dumb luck?
Just dumb luck. I was actually, on the Marine Corps birthday, I was coming home from fishing on base. And I was at the stoplight over there in front of the Walmart near the base and just waiting for the light to turn green, and then bam.
What happened to the driver?
Well, she didn't get charged with, she got charged with DUI, but it didn't stick. But had the whole, insurance claim, all that stuff. My car got jacked up really bad. It got repaired. My dog got hurt pretty good. That was a whole legal thing that eventually went away. But that stuff still lingers. I mean, I still have issues from that initial car accident even today. I was on limited duty. I was on limited duty the last year I was at 234. So, like I said, at the end, I was trying to get away from the base, not the unit, but the base, because I can't tolerate this medical crap no more. And I had a limited duty review board, and I lied my ass off, to be honest. I said, yeah, I feel great. I'm ready to go. Well, I'm ready to go to the next unit. Where do you want to go? I don't care. Anywhere. I said, well, you're going to Cherry Point. Oh, great. They have a hospital there. Yeah. No, they don't. It got downgraded to a clinic sometime before I got there.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that, because I'd fallen off. I was doing something dumb, but I'd fallen off the number 2 nacelle when I was in, and we were dumb. It was nighttime, and I landed like, I was on top of the nacelle. I was straddling it instead of, it was nighttime. It was dumb. I should have got my ass kicked. I should have had the entire crew on board, freaking just tearing me up, say no. But I jumped through the crew escape hatch. I went out there with some hide fluid. It was kind of wet, rainy, windy, whatever. And I'm just straddling it, filling it up, the hide fluid on the number 2 prop. And I ended up falling off, man. And I landed flat on my ass, like in an Indian sitting position. Got up, rubbed my butt, felt okay, got on board, went back, got a B5 stand the correct way, closed everything up. And then we did bounce and goes or whatever we did. I came back the next morning, waking up after putting the airplane to bed, and I couldn't move, man. And at the time, the flight surgeon, they took me out of flight status, and the flight surgeon was a badass. I forget her name, man. I would love to remember her. But she did a rare thing, because I wasn't really getting better there, and she had me go see someone out at UNC Chapel Hill. And back then it was like super rare, if unheard at all, whatever, not to get care through the naval hospital there.
Right.
Whatever they were doing with the chiropractors there, man, wasn't working. And I was pissed. I was getting angry, and she took care of me. And then within 2 or 3 visits with this physical therapist, straight up, and a back physician that worked for something at UNC Chapel Hill, man, I was off of light duty and, back at it. So surprising to hear, because at the time I was at Cherry Point, man, the hospital seemed great. They couldn't take care of me, but at the time I remember being a big old hospital, man. So I guess I got downgraded just to clinic, huh?
Yeah. There's no emergency room there even.
Wow.
Anything like that, you got to go to New Bern or Morehead City now. Okay. It's been like that for a while.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucked that they didn't have exactly what it needs. So I pretty much showed up to the squadron on limited duty. It didn't take long to get put back on limited duty again because of my spinal injuries and whatnot. Because that had messed me up real bad. I was at a stoplight, and that lady was doing 55, 60 miles an hour and just slammed right into my left rear of the Ford Explorer I was driving.
And she walked with no charges.
I mean, she got charged, but it all eventually went away. Her husband is an attorney that handles stuff like that.
Good old boys down in Texas.
I mean, not praise to the Fort Worth Police Department because they were doing everything they could to not play that game. He just played it better.
Yeah. All right. So 252, tool room, limited duty.
No,
how was your morale?
I got to 252 and I was put right in power line and started going to work, started getting OJT on the J model because I never went to school for the J model. Started collecting my level 1s, my level 2s when those were still a thing, working on my level 3s. And eventually I got told that I could not retain my MOS unless I went to school for the J model. So I got sent out to Little Rock, Arkansas, where the new J model school was. And I went through like a month and a half or so of basically J model conversion training. Is
Little Rock still like Mecca for the C-130s? Because I think we flew in there one time and it was nothing but C-130s for as long as
the Air Force it is, yeah. Yeah, for the Marine Corps, all of our aircrew training is done east and west, like out of Miramar and out of here at Cherry Point. I don't know if they have an FRD in Japan.
Okay. So how was it being in the power plants there at 252? Good time? Good shot?
Oh, yeah. Man, shout out to Mike Swisher for just being one of the funniest staff NCOs I've ever dealt with, but would take care of business without a problem. A lot of really, they were all combat vets. They'd all been on at least 1 to 2 deployments. And I'd worked with some of the most knowledgeable individuals I'd ever met on for any aircraft platform whatsoever. Now, some of these guys, like David Mercado, they knew the airplane for the J, no different than some of the most experienced flight engineers could tell you stories about the valve housing, to intricate details. Mercado knew the airplane that detailed, which was counterintuitive because the instructions for fixing the airplane, a lot of it's not really relying on theory of operation. It's more of just look at this, look at the download, see the code that it gives, and then that code usually means replace this, fix that. So you follow a fault isolation tree of and it tells you what to do versus the knowledge of that. So several of those individuals, they had that innate knowledge of the theory of operation of it's saying this, it's doing this, but I don't think that's the problem. I think it's this instead. And
the airplane, and they probably had to get that knowledge pretty quick, right? With the airplane being newer, to have that type of knowledge, those are probably some pretty smart dudes that got a hold of that knowledge and that experience pretty quick. And it's probably a guess on my part. When you're over there in Iraq and Afghanistan, you gotta do it. You gotta figure it out, right?
When I got to that squadron, it wasn't too long afterwards that after a FOD walk, the CO asked everybody to come around school circle and said that tomorrow we're not flying. We're not even fixing planes. Tomorrow we're taking the day off because he had realized it was the first time in 10 straight years the entire squadron was home. For 10 straight years,
an entire decade.
For a decade, that squadron had never all been home. There was always a small detachment out in Iraq or Afghanistan or Africa or Spain or this, that, the other. This was the first time in 10 years everyone was home.
Wow.
I said, tomorrow we're taking the day off because the phone call is going to come very quickly and we're back in the wind. And he was right. Like 2 days later, phone call, back to the wind. Some of those guys, they were doing deployments to Africa for the HOA stuff. They'd be out there for like 2 months, 2-3 months or something like that. And then they'd be home for a month and back out again.
Back at it.
You could go 3 years at that squadron and never meet somebody. There's people I saw walk across the hangar deck like, who the hell's that guy? Dude, he's been here. No, he hasn't. I've been here for 3 years. I've never seen that guy. Well, the second he got here, he got deployed to this, then he got deployed to that.
Yeah. He's going that way, you're going that way, and
yeah.
It's all timing, man. You can spend, like you said, I look back at my time at the MEU and then at 252 and 253, man, and there's people coming and going all the time, and you just be scratching your head wondering, hey, who's the new guy? And they're like, it's not a new guy, jackass. That guy's been around here a lot longer than you. So I get it.
And while I was at 234, I was in the tool room, and an all hands email went out, and it said that is there any quote unquote AV nerds out there? I need a little video presentation about the history of the KC-130 Hercules, and I need it before the Marine Corps Ball. It was 2009. It was the 234th birthday, BMGR 234. We're going to call it Year of the Herc. Anybody want to volunteer to do this? And all I heard was I get 3 days off to stay at home and like make a 15, 17-minute video on the history of the C-130. I'm down. And I got told, come up to the CO's office. And I was told that someone will be over to help you. They're going to be the narrator for this, and they're going to help you with it. So I went home, and then not too long afterwards, I got a knock at my front door, and the guy says, "Hi, my name's Lieutenant Colonel Bell. I'm going to be helping you out today." Like, wait a second. A lieutenant colonel helping a sergeant. I thought it's usually the other way around when we do this stuff. You're helping.
Is that Taco?
Me. Taco. Yep.
Okay.
It was Taco and I that sat in my living room going through like all the kind of the abbreviated history of the airplane and the squadrons. And I had no idea what I had volunteered myself into.
Yeah, he's a good man. I spent some time with him at 252, Mitch, Taco Bell. And then if I remember correctly, I think he got out. He spent a lot of time and moved up pretty quick, and rightfully so at American Air. I think they even put him in charge of the Skyball once or twice. I could be wrong, Taco, if you're watching this, but a lot of people have been graced by that man's presence, man. And he was a hell of a pilot and a great officer.
Yeah, he does a lot of good work, and he's got that podcast that he does. A lot of cool stories he gets on there. So, and that was at 234, and not knowing, having really any clue of the kind of work I was doing, but finding out that the highly revered and famous pilot from the 60s and 70s, Henry Wildfang, was going to be in attendance. And I had no knowledge then, but I'm going through all this history stuff and finding out that, he crashed his plane in Quezon. Look, what happened? Taco had some information, but not a whole lot of it. So a lot of these questions started coming up. And so I started like collecting all the photographs and videos and stories I could, because I wanted to know the answers to these questions. And when I got to 252, I just continued that. Well, at 234, because of that video at the Marine Corps Ball, I got awarded a NAM. And I get to 252, and Colonel Morris was the CO. He was my maintenance officer at 234 at one point. And he had heard about what I was doing for history stuff and said, "I want you to give a brief to the squadron on the history of our aircraft and our squadrons." And so I did. And it just kept evolving.
Now, let me interrupt you, man. Let's back up a little bit. So you get asked to make this birthday video for the squadron, and you're like, hell yeah, 3 days, I get to work on this. Did you have any type of AV experience? Did you have any type of digital cinematography?
Yeah.
Did you have any, or were you just winging it with a scanner and whatever you and Taco were doing?
We used a $11 microphone from Radio Shack that was just absolutely horrible, even at that time. It was all done on Windows Movie Maker, or Media Player, whatever it was. Really, right. I mean, this is 2009. It's not like, I don't even know if
Blue
Adobe
screen,
Premiere Pro.
Text. Yeah, no.
Yeah. And just trying to, it was a highly advanced PowerPoint show, pretty much. Not a whole lot of video, but a whole lot of pictures and, picking all the transitions.
Is that still around? Can we still find it?
Yeah, it's on my Marine Battle Herc YouTube page. It's
all right, cool, man. I'll go ahead and link it at the end of the podcast, man, so we can watch that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I think it's called like How It All Got Started. And I show the original video of what that looked like back then. And that kind of started a lot of those things. So I kind of became known as the historian at 252. I was poking my nose into stuff of, hey, where'd this plaque come from? There was like a Africa debt. All these plaques and whatnot, and nobody really had the answers. So I started looking for all the answers myself.
Yeah,
and
I
compiled it.
One thing, I think you and I might have spoken about this a long time ago when we got connected. There's one thing I always wanted to do, man. I mean, I got so much time in Africa because I just kept staying. I kept staying for that one dead A out of Rota and Dakar. And I would just love to go back and see that plaque that we had made over there again. And I still hope it's hanging up in the ready room, man, because that was a hell. It was when it was typical ebony wood carved ones for dead A out of Africa, man. It was when everything was going on in Dakar, down in Sierra Leone, and the whole western part of Africa, man. We spent months and months down there. We were moving out French nationals, we were moving out Peace Corps people, and just supporting the effort down there during the whole time during the 90s when communism fell. The CIA and the U.S. government quit funding all the African countries to keep communism out, and we left. And then all their economies went to shit. They burnt down all their breweries and burnt down all their libraries, and their banks got looted. And next thing you know, we're doing all these NEO operations, man, getting everyone out. So we'd spent a lot of time over there, man. And I was just lucky enough, fortunate enough to be in Rota at the time. And then I think we were 2 ships at the time. And I couldn't have been out there with a better man to kick my ass, a guy named Frank Adami. And God, I hope Frank is doing well today, man, because what a mentor, what a great guy he was, and what a good almost father figure to keep us in line. He was a great guy. We had a hell of a time, throwing beers back, and some of the stories we could tell, man. But we had that debt was wonderful. It's one of those things I look back and I wish I paid attention a little bit more. Wish I would have spoke to some of those older guys a little bit more, man. But yeah.
I think it's still there. I think I remember seeing something like that up in the squadron halls. I mean, okay. Make sure you share this to the 252 page, and maybe a young Marine over there will go double check and go look for something with VMGR 252 Det A in Africa. It's been like the 90s, like 93, right? Like 93, 94, something like that.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, I would love to. Like a bucket list item of mine is to check out a Cherry Point Air Show, man, before I retire. And, just making it back on base and those smells and looking around, seeing the old wash racks, if they're still there, and the 2 old hangars for where 253 was, and the 252 right next door. It's a bucket list item of mine, man, to get back there. And I thought if I ever make it back there for an air show, I'm going to go door knocking and try and make it up to that ready room.
No, I'm sure that you can make that work out. Good luck remembering anything on base, because there is so much construction here going on. It's unreal.
Yeah. So it's got to be completely different. Yeah. I stayed in Slocum Village, man. And I just looked at Google Earth one day, man. It's like all those old base housing has been razed, and they got all these nice new houses, and they're probably not, cockroach infested the way ours was. 97 Jackson Drive was my old address, man. And last time I zoomed in to take a look at it, man, I'm like, holy shit, Cherry Point has changed, man. Because I think the Walmart was new, the one way down on 17 or 70 or whatever it was, headed towards Morehead City. That Walmart was new, and like the only thing really going on was 1 or 2 bars right outside the main gate there, man, and that was it.
Yeah, there's a lot of construction going on. They're doing a lot of upgrades. I mean, we got F-35 squadrons coming in, standing up here soon, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've even seen a Predator flying over the top of my work a few times a week.
Ah, really?
Or not Predator, sorry, Reaper. It's a Reaper.
Okay, the Reapers? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, all right, we got sidetracked a little bit. Sorry about that. So, so 252, engine shop, sergeant, good mentors, good work. Any deployments?
No, I had never deployed officially. I did go to Afghanistan twice for a FISDU. So I spent about probably no more than 9 days total time between 2 different FISDUs, going to Kandahar, Camp Bastion, and Bagram Air Base to go deliver parts, supplies, and bring a few more replacement people out there. So at least I did get to see Afghanistan. I just did not experience it in the term of a theater campaign medal.
All right. Now, was that something going on those FISDUs? Did they look for volunteers? Or did you beat your chest because you wanted to leave? Or did you go rescue an airplane, go help it? Or
neither.
How did that work out?
So one day when we were in the shop, somebody said, "Hey, Sergeant Stinar, CO wants you in his office right now." I was like, great. So I was working on this documentary called the Marine Battle Hercs, a Legacy documentary. I was working as a technical advisor, and the public affairs office at Cherry Point, a staff sergeant there, got really upset because I was not an officer. I was not not official historian. I wasn't authorized to speak on behalf of the Marine Corps. And so I was barred officially by orders that I was not allowed to participate in the rest of that project. And I had beat my chest on that a little bit of being cocky of this is on my own time. And I am an expert in the history of these squadrons. You find me anybody else who knows more, I'd love to sit down and buy them a beer and just share stories, because I have no problem not being an expert. I'm just being a student and listening. And I went to the CO's office, and I was told that I was being declared as a official historian. And my first order was that I was getting on the next flight to Afghanistan to go document what VMGR 252, what the Marines there were experiencing, what life was like at the squadron deployment. So I flew out there twice to do that, to go document, photograph, film, and make notes and whatnot, and bring that back and report to the CO.
How was that received by the man that was trying to keep you down?
Not good. Well, let's put it that way.
Who cares, right? Fuck them.
I faced NJP, or I faced the charges, I think twice. and both the times it got ripped up.
Good.
I'd played just barely outside the line where I was able to get brought back in, and then because I wasn't trying to put the Marine Corps in a bad light. I was trying to share the stories. We're the C-130 squadrons. We are the fat girl at the strip club, and the fat girl don't get no love. So nobody really likes us. I mean, you were in the squadrons. If we went anywhere, they parked our fat airplanes at the other end of the runway where we couldn't bother no one, because we were either giant fans blowing fod all over the flight line like little rocks and whatnot, or we just did things different. And
or
it wasn't enough.
Blowing over porta potties up in Aviano because they didn't tow us in. They had us pull straight in, and we said, "Hey, we can't turn around. We can't turn around. We're not fast movers. We're going to have to get towed out of here." And the next morning, we couldn't get a tow out. Tower tells us to reverse, and we're like, "There's a whole bunch of urinals." So yeah, that's what they get for not parking us where they park everyone else. That's what they get for treating us like redheaded, or like you said, like the fat girl at the strip club, man. We blew over so many damn urinals, man, all over Aviano, man. So we made a mess.
It's funny how we were, as far as the air wing, we're always the bastardized bunch. We just operate completely different, and trying to share those stories of our contributions are just as big as anybody else. No, we're not doing strikes, like the F-18s and the Harriers, but we're also moving the entire Marine Corps in the back of our airplanes. We're gassing up the fight. We're moving the fight.
Yeah, 40 feet at a time, right? 40 feet at a time, man.
We're carrying the bodies out of Afghanistan. We're putting in our share, and we're getting very little to no credit. I mean, the 100 years of aviation video from the Marine Corps, there is maybe a blip of a photograph of one of our Hercs. It's all about the rest of the airplanes, though. And at that time, the C-130 had been around for 50 of it, half of the entire service of aviation in the Marine Corps. We've been around for half, more than any other airplane in the entire Marine Corps inventory as a platform. Yeah. So trying to tell those stories was important.
I think looking back too, that bastardization, that lack of love is probably what made all of us and the friendships and the brotherhood within that community so damn tight and so accountable too. So
right, like I said at the VMGR Memorial when we dedicated that it's a crew served weapon is how it's officially kind of looked at, right? Because it's an aircraft to most people, but it's actually a weapons platform. Well, it's a crew served weapon. Well, that doesn't just go for the aircraft. That also means the families behind. When a Marine goes on deployment, the family back home is by themselves for 6 to 8 months. And then you have the other families that are deployed. They're all taking care of them, watching their kids, mowing their lawns, pitching in. It's a family, much more, I believe, than any other squadron out there, because that's what it is. I mean, as aircrew, when you flew on that aircraft, yeah, to a point, it was sir and colonel, captain. But honestly, in flight, it was, hey, Chris, or whatever your nickname was. Can you grab me a pot of grab me a cup of coffee? It was more like a friendship thing, or shit talking over the microphone about your football teams and whatnot, which music. And someone's figured out how to plug their iPod into the jack of the aircraft. So they're playing music through the headset, and someone's like, please turn that crap off. It's a family.
Yeah. I remember one particular, we used to do the hurricane evacuations of the airplanes in North Carolina. And I remember we were back home and, you could only put one or two airplanes, chain them down, leave the doors open during a hurricane, get everything tied down. And then if the airplanes could fly, we'd fly them out and we would leave the families behind. And guys like you and I, we'd be at a bar someplace safe watching the hurricane, right? And then we'd come back and then have to start the cleanup. And I remember one year, I think there was like an officer enlisted wives club or something like that at the squadron. And all the officers' wives just like packed up and left. And they left all the enlisted wives behind. And if my memory and the story serves me right, is that wherever hotel the officers' wives went to, it was like in a little bowl. And they brought their wedding dresses, they brought their wedding albums. And it wasn't that bad back at Cherry Point, but the hotel they went to, the whole parking lot got flooded out. So it's like everything they left with, those officers' wives turning their backs on the enlisted wives, right? karma caught up to him, man, and I don't know if that got fixed afterwards because that was towards the tail end. But yeah, it's like everyone who stayed back, man, they would just take incredible care with each other, and then we'd show back up, park the airplane and grab chainsaws and go help, just start helping with the community and start helping all the families, man, So 252, 253, man, fucking, they were tight group.
And it's like generations of that family and that brotherhood and stuff. I'm sure you knew Nick DeCandia, right?
Oh yeah, I knew Nick. What a legend.
Yeah. The myth, the man, a legend in his own mind. God's gift to flight engineers, Master Gunner Sergeant Nicholas DeCandia.
Yeah.
Well,
taught me everything I needed to know on a 4-hour flight about the negator motor on the rear parachute door. Didn't know we could be that detailed about that.
I got to work for Lockheed thanks to him. He's the one who recommended me for the job, and it was almost an instant hire because Nick doesn't recommend anybody for anything except maybe to go fuck themselves. I don't know. It's Nick. No, what a lot of people don't know is the house that Nick lived at and still lived at up until his death over there in Newport, North Carolina. It's a special house, not just because it was Nick's house. And I'd been there and drank his Jack Daniels and stuff and seen all of his albums and let him, toot his own horn. Remarkable stories.
Yeah, I mean, deservingly so.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many Marine C-130 guys that have ever been at Antarctica on a Herc. It's a small list. It's not super small, but it is. It is small. Well, this must have been about maybe 8-9 years ago now. The son of Captain Albert Prevost, who is currently still missing in action from Basketball 809. He came out to Cherry Point. He had something to do. He was doing like Wilmington or Myrtle Beach, and so he stopped by Cherry Point. I took him around the base, and he got to smell the pine trees and the jet fuel, and he was like, "Man, I feel like I'm 6 years old again." And
awesome.
He said, "Hey, if I could remember where we lived, could you take me to the house?" Yeah, I can try. So we lived in a town called Newport. Oh, I know where it's at. So we're sort of driving. Like it was like near the baseball field, and you turned left off the main road. Like, oh yeah, right here. Okay. And it was like the 1st or 2nd street. Like, no, that's it right there. We turned left and he pulled and it was like, that's the house. Yeah, that's the house we lived in. That's the house. And my mom sold that to a young sergeant when we moved away after my dad was fully declared missing. I was like, wow, talk about fate. And he's like, what's going on? That's Nick DeCandia's house. Nick was the young sergeant that his mother sold the house to. No idea. It's those stories like about preserving the history and doing stuff that it's so important to share.
Yeah. And we had some legends, man, right? Bruce Taylor, the Loadmaster. Yeah. We had guys like Nick, and then guys going on like Hollywood, Rob Schiller,
Oh, yeah.
There's so many of those guys out there, man. It was just such an awesome, like I said, I really wish I had so much more maturity back then, man, to really just keep my mouth shut and just sit down and just take it all in from guys like that, man. We had some fucking legends there, man. Just absolutely fantastic, knowledgeable guys that love putting them back, and then guys who loved holding you accountable, and guys who loved that airplane. I mean, wonderful people we had there.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one flight engineer about all the legends. The engineer that he was a former recon guy in Vietnam, and then he turned flight engineer. And they're flying around here near Cherry Point, and they were flying recon guys and kicking them out the back on parachutes. And they're like, "Oh, Luke, yeah, you should jump with us, man, for old time's sake." And he's like, "Oh, why not? Hey, sir, care if I jump with the boys?" And the pilot said, "I don't care what you do, Luke," because Luke was a crazy wild man. And so they're coming in for landing at Cherry Point. And, they're getting ready to do their checks and whatnot. And the engineer's got to do his stuff. And Luke, hey, where the hell's Luke? And the Loadmaster said, "Sir, he jumped out the back of the plane like 45 minutes ago. Grabbed one of the parachutes off the wall, put it on, jumped out the back." Yeah. And they had to go pick him up down near Lejeune. Brought him in, attempted to NJP him, and couldn't because the pilot in command gave him permission. And Luke was qualified to jump. So you couldn't burn him for it.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember hearing that story back in the day, man. Fantastic. Same guy you might have heard that he crawled up the wall
and then swung from rafter to rafter in the hangar at 252. That's the same
I didn't
guy.
hear that one.
Yes, same exact guy.
So you're doing the historical stuff, 252. You make a couple trips over to Afghanistan, start putting that project together. How much longer were you in the Marine Corps for?
Not too much longer, because Afghanistan was 2012 and 2013. I was there. Both times were January and February. Okay. And then 2012, we started having the whole reduction in force. The RIF that a lot of people might be familiar with. They did the same thing during this time frame, and the Enlisted Career Force Control Program, and they were working on downsizing pretty heavy in the Marine Corps. And so I was like 12th or 15th on the list that could possibly be promoted to staff sergeant. I had been a sergeant for 7 years because our MOS was closed for that long. Now, the backstory there is we had eye-level power line. Well, with the J model, there's no eye level for the power plants. So all of those Marines in eye level got merged into 6216. So you got
hold on. Is that
Marines.
Because was there no eye level because contractors had taken over, Lockheed taken over, if it had to get repaired at that level, or the airplane just didn't need it?
I would have to say that it's mostly because it's either fixed by the O level or it's under contract, under warranty with Rolls-Royce. So you send it to Indiana. There was relatively nothing that we couldn't do, or what we weren't allowed to do, either ourselves or supervised by Lockheed/Dowdy on the propeller. You sent that to the depot, if anything else, or it would get sent back to Indianapolis to Rolls-Royce. So hundreds of Marines from the I level flood the O level MOS, and so we had been closed for 7 straight years. And I'm like 12th or 15th on the list. There is very senior people as a sergeant above me. If they even opened up 3 for selection, I'm not in that list. So I was looking at being involuntarily discharged at the end of my contract. And I was like, sweet. Involuntary discharge at the end of my contract where I'm not allowed, I was denied reenlistment. That means involuntary separation. I get separation pay. So I submitted my packet that I'm going to get out, I'm going to get the separation pay, and I'll just be done with this and find a new life. Then the order changes. You had to be denied reenlistment and denied extension. And the career planner said, I will guarantee you a month of my paycheck. They will approve that extension every time. Because the moment that you say no to the extension when it gets approved, that's now a voluntary separation. And sure enough, I submitted my package and they said, yep, extension approved, take it or leave it. And at the time, I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't set myself up to get out. It was like, well, I need at least a year. So I extended for 1 year, and then it came up again. Denied reenlistment. In fact, I have it in a file somewhere. I have the copy of the denial paperwork where some colonel up at Headquarters Marine Corps, and it literally says, thank you, Sergeant Stinar, for your service to our Corps and our country, but your services are no longer required. Signed, Colonel, can't read his last name. And I had picked up, apparently along the way, I'd picked up 2 recommendations for promotion, or not for promotion, for reenlistment. One from my CO, and then one from some general. I don't know who it was. Don't know how it got on there. But so I put in for another extension. Extension got approved. And I said, I've had enough. I've had my fill. And I denied the extension, and I went through the process for getting my honorable discharge and a DD-214.
You know what? This is going to be a good time to take a break with you separating from the Marine Corps. So let's take a quick break and we'll jump back into it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, everyone, we are back from the break. We left off with Alan telling us that he turned down a voluntary extension and he made the decision to get out of the Marine Corps. Alan, what happened? Where'd you go? How did that end up?
Well, I was, as I had said, that I had I got denied reenlistment because they were doing a reduction in force, and I denied my extension. So I was told, my EAS date, and I had to start, like everybody else, start winding down and start getting all the paperwork to get out, submit everything to the VA, do all that stuff. And I got out. I had a few appointments with the VA, but I'd already lined up a job in Saudi Arabia working for a company. I don't even want to say their name, but they are the shittiest bunch of individuals I have ever had the displeasure of working for.
Yikes.
In the short version of it is things went sideways. I didn't get paid for like 2 months. And I ended up, through connections because of my history work, somebody found me on Facebook and said, hey, I don't know you. You don't know me, but I've heard a lot about you. How much will it cost to get you out of Saudi Arabia? I'd say like $1,300. He sent it to me, said, pay me back whenever you can, as little as you can. And I was able to leave the country and got home, and I was like, oh, I got to find a job because I was divorced from my wife at that point. I had child support. This stuff is coming up quick. I'm already 2 months behind. I'd applied to Lockheed Martin 6 or 5 times. And before the 6th application, there's this job. I found out that there was this job in Iraq, basically being a power plants mechanic, an APG, And I called Nick and I was like, hey, what the hell does it take to actually get to an interview with Lockheed Martin? I haven't even gotten a thanks for applying email. And he said, you looking for a job at Lockheed? Yeah, there's this position on Iraq, and I mean, it's going to pay well. It's in Iraq, working for Lockheed, and I need a job. So you're worth it. I'll get you to the interview. After that, you have to put your own tracks in the sand. 5 minutes later, I have a phone call. I don't know who you are, Mr. Stinar, but if Nick DeCandia says I need to review you for this position, I'm calling you. I got the job, went to work for Lockheed, worked on the J models for the Iraqi Air Force with Lockheed out in Baghdad. Ironically enough, when I got to Iraq, I had just sat down on the couch in our compound, and the guy that gave me the money to get out of Saudi Arabia walked in the door.
Oh, cool.
He was on that team.
Now, did you go directly from Jeddah right into Baghdad, or did you have some time back in the States before you made it over to Iraq?
I had some time back in the States. I flew back through Atlanta, and then I flew up to Minnesota to see my family, try to see if I can get a job up in that area. But just wasn't anything really that I could find. And I still had all my stuff in North Carolina. And it was while I was in Minnesota seeing my family, that was for about a month. Because it was November. Yeah, ironically, it was November 10th when I got hired by Lockheed. I arrived in Greenville, South Carolina for INDOC on November 10th to start going through all the processing to get hired on by them.
You arrived in Iraq, Lockheed Martin. How did that go? Way better of an experience for you? Where were you? Where were you turning the wrenches at?
It was certainly a different experience. So I had brought a couple of my camera things because I don't know what I'm going to do while I'm here, but I want to have, a camera or two to kind of pass the time, to try to do some photography in the desert. I did some of the photography in and around Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and up in the mountains in Taif. But, I want to do this here, and I don't know what I'm going to be able to do in Baghdad. So I arrived at Baghdad International Airport. They open up my camera case, see a bunch of camera lenses, and I'm an American, and immediately escort me to the police station. I got camera equipment, and they weren't rude or nothing. They were just trying to, in little interrogation of what are you doing with all these lenses and whatnot.
What year was this?
2014.
So we had already been there, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years, and seen an American show with some camera lenses is, we've been dropping bombs. We've been rebuilding your government. We've been building your whole country back from the way we destroyed it. A contractor shows up to turn wrenches for the Iraqi Air Force, and they see you as a threat because you got some camera equipment.
Yeah, man, I'm not sure what their security was, but I couldn't really turn it down. I kind of get it in a way.
Of course. Well,
as I was walking to the police station, ironically, one of the guys from our security team that we hired to protect all the Lockheed employees, he showed up almost the same time. So he went in there with me, pretty much told them to pound sand, showed them some paperwork that probably said something to the effect of hands off, and got in the car, drove to our compound. And like I said, that's where I met Ray. He's the one that paid for me to get out of Saudi Arabia, and introduced ourselves like, you're Ray? Hang on a second. Walked up the ATM, pulled out like the max, like $600. I was like, here, there's half. No, man, you can take your time. No, I don't like debts. No, I can't pull out any more today. I'll pull out the rest of it tomorrow. I don't know if did you ever get to go into Baghdad?
No, never.
Well, we had a couple of guys in the team that they had been there like during the war. Because 2014, there is almost no military per se in Iraq. There's like advisors, maybe special forces. There is not like a total control at this point, not like before. And where we were living, that was pretty much just for the Lockheed employees, like our little compound. And across the runway, there was the BIOP. It's Baghdad International Airport, but it was like where Department of State was. They had their own compound over there, a little medical facility, chow hall, the whole 9 yards. And we'd be driving around the airfield to get to work, and our guys on our team would point out like that's where like Camp Liberty was or something, and this and that. Meanwhile, all I see is like thousands and thousands of broken T-walls and K-walls. It's just concrete everywhere, busted concrete, and the remnants of the war. And in some parts, you couldn't tell which war. Like, is that from our war from 2003 on? Like, nah, dude, that's from Desert Storm. Like, that's how old that place was with just war. And working on the airplanes, they had one aircraft that had like a 3 or 4G landing. When you laid on the concrete and looked down the belly, it was just like an ocean of ripples.
I can imagine.
It was bad. The other aircraft were pretty good. We were just trying to manage the Iraqis. They have a different view on how to fix shit. If it flies, it works. That's not the right way. They'd fly with anything. They didn't care. So as Lockheed, our job was to maintain the aircraft to the best of our ability and attempt to play a little bit of the politics game.
How was the cultural experience different? And forget about the bullshit, the assholes in Saudi Arabia and your problems there. But I mean, was your entire time in Saudi Arabia negative where you couldn't come up with a positive view of the Saudis and then compare that to your time in Iraq and dealing with those guys? I mean, how was it? Because in my mind, I got a couple of ideas how things would have been culturally different between Jeddah and Baghdad.
I mean, they're both Muslim countries, so it's that's kind of the same. If I remember right, I think they're opposing sides. I think one's Sunni, one's Shia. Or Iraq is both in some ways. Yeah, you're right. Most of the Saudis I encountered at work, it was not good. Outside of work, I was able to, I bought a bicycle and I was able to ride all over Jeddah and go find things to do photography with. Made some friends with a guy from the Philippines who was a nurse, some guy from Turkey who worked somewhere. And we went in a car and attempted to go to Mecca to do photography. Christians can't go to Mecca. So
nope.
They were very polite about it. Everybody else in the car was Muslim, just not me. Very polite that I'm sorry, but you can't go. Where do you want to go? Well, we're trying to get to Taif, the mountains of Taif that are nearby. You can go that way. And you look from like nice streets to dirt road. Went all the way up the mountains, doing photography. Had my food get stolen by a baboon or a monkey or something. Great shots. So in Iraq, though, we were very confined. We couldn't really go out into the city. We were never more than like 20 feet from a bodyguard.
It's funny you bring that up about food getting stolen by the indigenous wildlife, man, because the same thing happened to us down in Mombasa, Kenya, at the Intercon Hotel when all of Somalia was going on, man. We were down there with the airplane or whatever, and then sure enough, man, a little purple ass monkey comes out of the freaking jungle and grabs your food off the freaking table, man. It disappears. So I'm glad it just didn't. I'm glad, I guess, that tradition continues to other people, man, because I'm not surprised hearing that.
Yeah. I mean, there's all the bad experience of Saudi, which is a fair amount of what I went through. There's some good. In Iraq, we were more confined to our compound, which, we had to go through a whole security check to get in and out of. We couldn't have any weapons of any kind. I mean, I got my Leatherman taken away until I was leaving because it had a knife on it. It was just a safety thing. We're never more than 20 feet from a bodyguard at all times. And thank God for that. We got hit with rocket and mortar fire a few times while we were there. Had people in the Iraqi army messing with their pistols, like twirling it like a cowboy, and then it would go off. So I didn't get to see much of Baghdad other than like every Friday, I think it was, or Saturday, we would go to the black market and go buy a bottle of Jack Daniels for like $50, $60. Some Oakley shades that may or may not be real. I don't know. And it was pretty much just work and home. But at least at the compound, we had a bar, we had a pool table, we had a TV, we could play video games. I brought 2 of my guitars.
was the work? Did you enjoy turning wrenches out there?
It was certainly different. I mean, imagine trying to be a power line guy. Like you're there to fix the airplane. That's not a problem. What's wrong with it? First, I got to get it out of them. What's wrong? I can't fix it if you don't tell me the truth. Because they didn't like to, if they messed up, they didn't want to tell you the truth because they are about saving face. Like, I don't care what you did. I'm not going to get you in trouble. I just need to know what's wrong so I could fix it. You know, there's a giant crack in the windshield. Oh, we hit the bird in flight. You did what? Well, I don't see any blood spatter. No. We hit the rock in flight. You hit a rock in flight. How low were you flying over Fallujah? Because, I mean, this is early 2014. The new Battle of Fallujah is going on just, down the road, we'll say, from where we were in Baghdad. Our flights are going in and out of Fallujah and back. They're going up to Ramadi when the Battle of Ramadi is going on. This is the rise of ISIS. And you're lying to me, and we hit a rock in flight. No, just tell me the truth. I already looked at the download. Turns out you left the Nisa heat on for like 15 minutes.
Hold on. Non-electrostatic form A. Am I right?
Something like that. It heats the windshield.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to remember the nomenclature for Nisa. I think it was non-electrostatic form alpha. I don't know.
You left it on, and every time it tried to turn itself off, you kept turning it back on. It's 115 degrees outside. That's what cracked the windshield. Just tell me the truth.
That's why we have those checks, takeoff and landing.
Well, and like I said, I could see the download. That was the only time in my career.
Oh, these were the J models. These were the J models.
These are J models.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because I was thinking that I'm sorry you did mention the J models because I'm like thinking the fuck you download on an old F, H, or R model, man, and maybe a T. I'm like, what do you download it? But yeah, the J's. That makes sense.
You can see a download, and I could see every switch that you threw, what time you did it, and all that stuff. I mean, it's the only time in my career I've ever seen an APU overheat ever. And it was like, that's weird. I've never seen one or heard of one. So I go look at the download, and you see in the data, I can see the data stream, and I see the temperature, and it spikes from like 600 something degrees to like 1200 for a tenth of a second and back down. Like, okay, I'm no physicist, but if you went from like 600 to 1200 degrees in like a tenth of a second, I'm pretty sure that's in the realm of like nuclear explosion. Or there's just an error with the sensor. It had a logic issue, something like that. We'll monitor it, but I don't think it's coming back. And so we were there to fix the planes, but also to kind of teach. We were not full-blown instructors. We're mechanics, of our different respective positions. There's only 10 people on the team. But at sometimes because it's the Iraqi Air Force is kind of like our reserves. They have like a 1 week on, 1 week off kind of deal. So I almost never saw the same people twice. And I had one guy like, you're going to be working with Ahmed today. And I'm thinking of Ahmed, the dead terrorist. And that's funny. I'm like, oh, okay. Funny.
First thing that went through my brain, man.
Right. But everywhere I've been, I'm very sketchy because I have not been around that culture like this. This is a war zone that is actively, in combat. And we're on the flight line with no weapons. Our security guys have weapons, but we don't. And I've got this guy that it's just going to be me and him and my bodyguard standing at the bottom of the stand. But I'm trying to work through this culture thing. So I'm like, on the stand, we're like working on the FPMU. And I was like, so Ahmed, where are you from? He doesn't really speak English, but he goes, from? Yeah. Where is your home? He goes, oh, Fallujah. Oh.
So let me back you up for a second. Let me back you up for a quick second. So it's you and an Iraqi. You guys are on a B1, B5, wherever the fuck stand, right? And there's some guy at the bottom of the stand giving you protection with what? An AK? I mean, that just boggles my mind. I mean, it just blows me away that you'd have some guy at the bottom of the stand, like giving you security. Was it insider threat thing they're so worried about? Was it so
it was
expected? Okay.
I mean, the perimeter, if you want to call it that, like it was a base per se, because like half of the airport is Baghdad International. The other side is like the military side. But I didn't really see anything that led me to believe they were really protecting like the border of the base.
Okay.
So there was an insider threat issue. Like we were even told like you were not allowed to even go to the bathroom without one of your security detail in the room. It is a concern. There was places around the hangar we couldn't go because they hadn't cleared it for mines and IEDs yet. Yeah. So he's at the bottom. He's this guy from South Africa, former narcotics officer for South Africa. He's at the bottom of the stand, like watching us, laughing his ass off. Because the conversation is like, so where are you from? Where are you from? Fallujah. Wrench. Oh, cool. Do you like Fallujah? And he goes, no, fuck Fallujah. And I'm like, oh, you and I are friends. We're good now. Like we're the Iraqis are in a war with ISIS in Fallujah at this moment, and this dude's from Fallujah.
And he's saying, fuck Fallujah.
And he goes, fuck Fallujah. I'm like, oh, we're friends. And he's trying to ask me questions, and I started picking up Arabic quite a bit because I learned that like in the culture, yeah, we might be Americans, we're Lockheed, but they don't have a lot of respect for us. In some ways, that's understandable. I mean, we just thoroughly jacked up their country in a war. And a bunch of other reasons why they may not. So learning Arabic from any of the guys I worked with, especially our interpreters that were on our security detail, it was a cool cultural experience to learn from them. I could ask them questions about the Muslim culture, so I could be respectful of that, but also learn Arabic. Because if I walked into like the support equipment shack and it was like, hey, I need a B5 on aircraft 309 and I need it like right now. They're like, okay, yes. And then it would never show up. And instead of like one day I walked in there, I was like, if I can remember how to say it, I was like, Ani ahetaj la trafmia with tisa B5. Something like that. My Arabic isn't really good anymore, but I learned how to say, give me a B5 right fucking now.
Well, you're not using that much Arabic in Havelock, North Carolina?
No, although, funny story, years later, I walked into a smoke shop in here in Havelock to get cigarettes. And it was with a friend of mine. The guy behind the counter, it's like a, what they call a Haji Mart. The guy behind the counter is, Middle Eastern descent. Didn't even think about it. I just asked him like, hey, can I get a pack of Marlboros? And talk about, how hot is it outside? And yeah, it's still pretty hot out there. And he said, well, our air conditioner's about to die on us. And I pay for my cigarettes, walk out. And my buddy Daniel goes, what the fuck was that? What? I bought cigarettes. He goes, no, dude, what the fuck were you saying? Apparently the entire time I spoke Arabic.
Awesome.
I just hadn't even think about it. That the two of us, I still had like a long beard and a dark complexion. So I looked like I was from the Middle East. And we just started talking Arabic about buying the cigarettes. Didn't even think about it.
How much time did you spend in Iraq?
I was there from January until June, like mid-June.
All right.
Was when everything on the news with like Obama talking about the rise of ISIS, and he called them the junior varsity of Al Qaeda.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one night where we had a security briefing every day. And then in the evening, they corralled us all together and said, listen, we got ISIS. This is the amount of forces that they got. And they're coming through, I think it was Taji. It's like north of Baghdad. And I said, but in Taji, there's like this mechanized armor units and like Iraqi special forces. So it shouldn't be too big of an issue. But if they do get here, it is a concern because we received photographs of every one of you. Those guys are hired basically like what we would call Lockheed CIA. These dudes are very well versed in protecting people overseas. But we were told it should be okay. And then at like 7:00 in the morning, bang, 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 pack one bag, get outside right now. We're leaving. Grabbed one bag, left everything else, my guitars, my PlayStation, left everything in the room, took my backpack, and we got put into our hard cars, drove to the airport, walked right through the metal detectors, and got on a Fly Dubai Airlines aircraft. Just walked right on the airplane. We're the only ones on it. Lockheed contracted a plane to get us out of the country because nothing stopped ISIS in Taji or whatever that town was. They were coming right for Baghdad. And Lockheed wasn't playing. We flew to Abu Dhabi, which is much nicer than Garfield makes it out to be in the comic books. That's a really nice place. We spent almost a month there, I think it was, in Abu Dhabi at the Sheraton, flew home, worked out at Lockheed Marietta for like another 30 days, and then flew back to Abu Dhabi again, stayed at Yaz Island, over by where the marina is, and Ferrari World.
All right, help me out. Were the Iraqis bringing the 130s there, or what 30 days in Abu Dhabi, you're back in Lockheed Martin, Marietta, Georgia, then going back to Abu Dhabi for another 30 days. What the hell were you doing?
They got us out as a security issue until they could kind of resolve some of that, which didn't happen. And then while we were in Abu Dhabi the first time, we were basically on a phone call every day with them to kind of get updates about the aircraft and trying to advise them on how to fix it, and waiting until they would fix it. Like, it's still messed up. I told you how to fix it. I can't do anything. Well, when are you coming back? When people aren't trying to kill everybody there.
So this is pretty much, you guys were pretty much phone a friend for an Iraqi register.
Yeah, which it was not going well. Other than the fuel shop, those guys were awesome. They did probably better than most Marines doing for taking care of the fuel cells. Well, and that just didn't work out, and they were paying buku money for us to be in Abu Dhabi. So we went back to Marietta and worked out from a desk there, answering a phone when it came. They'd worked something out that maybe if we can't go back in country, they'll fly the aircraft to Abu Dhabi for repairs. Like some repairs to be done in Abu Dhabi, which is odd because we're not a depot. We can't facilitate some of that. We secured a building. We had all the necessary resources to work on stuff, and it just wasn't going to work out. And then they told us, well, we're going back. Now this is voluntary. If you do not want to go back to Baghdad, that's your choice. But if you do not go back to Baghdad, you don't have a job. Because it's a contract. It's the contracting arm of Lockheed, not Lockheed, like a Lockheed Arrow, like a mothership.
Lockheed proper.
So I was not comfortable going back, not with the amount that ISIS was really, everything they were doing. I mean, and we know now, looking back, just they were not the junior varsity team made out to be. They were pretty damn good at what they do. I did not agree to go back to Iraq. So I went back to Marietta, turned in my laptop and my security token and all that stuff, filled out paperwork, and went home. And once I got home is when I decided to go to college.
Now, did you have any discussions with Nick at all, who got you into Lockheed, about why you walked away, or did you ever follow up with him, or did you ever try and stay with Lockheed proper?
I was looking for other jobs within Lockheed, but there just wasn't too many, or they were too far from my girls, and I wanted to be able to see them a little bit easier. Now, Lockheed pays you well enough. I could fly. And any other jobs I wanted, I wasn't qualified for. I was an aircraft mechanic 4, and the jobs I wanted would be like an FSR, like a tech rep. And I just didn't have the time in Lockheed, the recommendations for that particular position, and I didn't have a degree, which was one of the necessary things for a job like that, is to have a degree. That's when I got back and I decided, I'm going to go to college and use my GI Bill, because I didn't know too many people who actually use their GI Bill.
Where'd you end up? What kind of school? Where were you?
I did online school. I mean, I've done all this history stuff and storytelling. I've also been through a lot of funny experiences and bad experiences myself. And so if I'm already kind of doing this, I thought maybe I should get a degree in filmmaking of some kind. That way I can further my knowledge that I've already slowly started to gain. I've done photography around the world. I've done video around the world. Let's just get a degree to back that up, because sometimes that's all it takes. And if I find something else to do, just a degree in anything goes a little bit of a long way, right?
Helps.
So I was looking around and I found that you can either attend in person, or there's a whole bachelor's degree for digital cinematography through Full Sail University out of Florida. And they got a lot of tight connections with like the WWE and Fox and sports and stuff like that.
Cool.
They have a full film set right on campus for the on-campus students. I graduated. It's usually like it's an accelerated program. So what a bachelor's degree is like, what, about 4 years roughly? I graduated in like 3 years and 2 months.
Yeah, was that part-time or were you doing that full-time?
Oh, that was full-time. It didn't feel like it because a lot of this stuff I already knew. Like you got to take a camera shot with these specific lens, these focal lengths, and you got to set up this kind of lighting. And I'd already been doing a lot of that stuff. So it was like, this isn't that challenging. There's an easy A. And some things were pretty hard to do. I had one instructor that for the short film we had to make, he flat out told everybody, I have never, ever given out an A+. Because if you want an A+ in my class, you better be as good as Martin Scorsese. To which in the chat, I texted back, being the oldest person in my graduating class, I said, if I was as good as Martin Scorsese, I wouldn't be in this class. That's the truth. If I was as good as he was, I wouldn't be here. I'd be making a lot more money and doing this full time. The video that I submitted was my thesis, Rotation on 3, that you've seen. That was the thesis video, and that video got an A+.
We have to link it, Alan.
Yeah.
When you sent me that DVD and just 155,000 pounds of sex appeal, and just the way you put that whole thing together with the history, the current, the cinematography of it, incredible. That is what an homage. What a beautiful God, the word's escaping me. What a beautiful honor you did for that aircraft, man.
To be clear, that the short film that was my thesis for my bachelor's degree in college was called Rotation on 3. It's like 5 or 7 minutes long, something like that. The one you're talking about, the DVD, the documentary called Marine Battle Hercs: A Legacy, that I did that while I was in the Marine Corps. I did not do 99% of the video that you see in that documentary. That was performed by Chris Helton, who was a former KC-130 loadmaster. I didn't think he did most of his time in New York.
Yeah, that DVD is freaking incredible. Either way, I'm sorry I got the dates mixed up on you, man. But
it's all right.
But that Battle Herc, that Legacy, that that DVD, and then I guess now being corrected, looking back to that Rotation on 3. I mean, that's why I talked about in the beginning about bringing you on. I mean, the way you are able to have that eye, in fact, I think I said something leading up to you when we were chatting, about this. I'm just so stunned with the talent in your eye and being able to capture and set the story up and to narrate. And those two projects that you did for the aircraft, man, they're just freaking phenomenal. I mean, they're timeless, and they just capture everything in such a wonderful, wonderful light.
I appreciate that. I was just trying to share the stories of the Marine, of the military community and of our squadrons, because they're not often told. And one thing about like the C-130 community is that you got very different generations. Even on the Legacies, you flew Legacy, but you're not part of the same generation as like the 60s, those F model guys, but you flew on the exact same planes they did. I was working on, the oldest plane that we had when she was retired was 48 and a half years old, still flying. I was working on that in 2007. That plane was the first one ever delivered in 1961. But the generations in between, when you go to like a Makata reunion and you meet all these veterans, I'm the youngest one in the room usually by 30 years. Yeah. So to share the stories of how, yes, the plane has changed, the squadron has changed, all the missions, but the mission sets and the camaraderie has not changed. That I don't care if you served as a crew chief on an R4Q of an F model, or if you're serving today on the latest KC-130J 8.1 upgrade with LAIRCM installed, doesn't matter. On the headset, you will still hear the words Rotation on 3.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It's the same. And that's why in that short film, you had the different veterans that were sharing stories. But if you listen, they're similar. Talk about dropping flares at the back in Afghanistan. That's the same as Tony Zito talk about dropping them in Happy Valley in Vietnam.
Yep. You know, where I live at here in El Paso, I make trips out to Tucson a lot, and for work and for other reasons. And going by Davis Monthan, man, when I saw 898 parked out in the desert, you know, I'm like, it made me. I'm 52, and when I saw 898 parked out in the desert, knowing I got time on her, I'm like, I got time on that aircraft, man. I felt like a relic, and I'm like, I'm only 51 at the time when I saw it. I'm like, God, I feel old. But I'm thinking that airplane's a lot older than me. And I know the aircraft I got qualified on. You know how the NADEP, they put the little panel above the engineer's head for the date and time and the location where the airplane was delivered. I mean, we were getting qualified in the 90s on airplanes that were delivered in Vietnam.
Yeah, in the like 62, 64, something like that.
Yeah, and we were happy to be signing out an ASIP-2 aircraft at the time because we weren't flying an old ASIP-1 aircraft at the time, you know?
Right.
And just looking now with these J models and the technology and the endurance and the efficiency is just, but it's still the same airplane. It's still the same legacy. It's still the same people. It's still the same smells. You know, it sounds a little bit different because you got all those blades instead of 4, you know, and you got a lot, you know, but it's just nothing's changed. Like when I watch the videos you make and other stuff, you're right. Rotation on 3, you know, it's just wow.
I mean, it's funny going to like a Mikado reunion and listening to like the old Vietnam vets that don't know who I am yet, and they're like, "Oh, you're just a young buck." They talk about how, you know, I don't know about those new planes. You know, they couldn't do what we did. Maybe. In your era, they could have done better. I promise you, your planes could still do the mission today. Just for some reason, the Marine Corps won't let them. That's why we got rid of them. Yeah, they're a little slower. Yeah, they can't take on as much gas, theoretically. Big word to everybody out there is the theoretical part. But then I show them a video of like the Harvest Hawk, a weaponized KC-130J shooting missiles out of the sky at enemy combatants in Afghanistan and being formally called the deadliest aircraft asset in Afghanistan by the 2nd MOC commanding general. The deadliest airplane in Afghanistan to him is a C-130. That says something. When you could loiter around for like 10 hours and just wait for a 9-line and then send a hellfire right up some Taliban's asshole.
You know, it's funny because I saw something online last week or two, and I should send it to you because they showed an Air Force, you know, missions are different, people are different, times are different, whatever. And, you know, and I, you'll see where I'm going here in a second. For guys like you and I doing a 3-engine ferry, prep the plane, make phone calls, and be safe, right? And get it done. I was reading the story about a B-1B that had to do a 3-engine ferry. The Air Force press made such a big thing about it. The entire crew got like awards, and it was like this huge news in the Air Force forever, right? About a B-1B doing a 3-engine ferry. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, we kind of trained for that. Like, okay. You know, like I was trying to make a, like, why is it such a big thing for them? But for guys like you and I and those who went before us, we're like, fuck, man, feather the prop and let's do it. We'll be safe, you know? But then talking about what you were talking about the Harvest Hawk and the Hellfires and, you know, 50 cals mounted on the ramp or whatever it is, right? I was reading the story just a couple weeks ago. The Air Force was making a big deal about doing forward area refueling and then having an armed C-130. And I'm thinking, welcome to, like, I don't know, we started planning the shit back in the late 90s, man. And here it is, 2020, 24, 25, and you guys are just coming around. I'm like, you know, so like the Marine in me, I'm like, oh, that's cute. They're just getting around to doing it now, you know? So it's just funny seeing it. I mean, just seeing the difference. And like the Marine Corps is like, you're telling me we could put 8 Hellfires on that wingtip? Yes, sir, we are. Fuck it. Let's do it. And we did it,
Right.
and they did it. It was effective. And I remember the pictures you posted and the videos and all that of those Hellfires taking off from the wing, man, and strikes and, and doing all that. Just the lethality of it, man. It's just so awesome. What a diverse, and you try to explain it to people. It's like, we're going to take these group of Marines. We're going to put them back to the airplane. We're going to fly from here. But before we land them there, we're going to strike a village with these missiles because some bad guys are there. And then we might get a radio call that this F-18 needs fuel. We'll give them fuel along the way, and then we'll deliver those guys. And then when we get done with it, we'll pick up the phone and we'll be like, hey, what do you need? Okay, we'll do all that on the way back. And I don't think you see that kind of diversity in any other platform in the military, man, with any type of aircraft. No one else is doing that.
That's why they call it a force multiplier, because it truly is. Now, I kind of feel like that you said like the Air Force has an RMC-130, and they do. I mean, they did before. We're not new at it, having an RMC-130. They had it in Vietnam, right?
Oh, yeah.
Except I kind of feel like...
Yeah, I'm not taking anything from the AC-130s. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just talking about with the Hellfires and like everything we've been doing.
Because we've had some the two different models of the AC-130 for the Air Force with the guns and whatnot. It's just an opinion. I kind of feel like the Air Force saw the Harvest Hawk and was like, how come we didn't do that? And of course, the Air Force has got money to do all kinds of things, like a KC-130J that has guns and missiles, because we don't have guns.
Hell yeah.
It's basic the case. And they only the Air Force could actually pull it off, because Marine Corps ain't got the money to pay for the copyright licensing or to get forgiven of it. It's officially called the AC-130J Ghost Rider.
I don't know, man. Harvest Hawk sounds more sexy to me, man.
Well, I mean, the Hawk stands for Hercules Air Weapons Kit,
right?
Or Airborne Weapons Kit, and it's pretty badass. It really is. But it's a force multiplier, and just think about from the ground perspective, that if you call in a 9-line for that you need close air support, you are at the mercy of what is already on station. How much fuel do they have? What's the armament? Or how long will it be till they get to you? Versus having a C-130 just doing circles like
waiting.
NASCAR.
Waiting.
And for like 10 hours, they could do that.
It's awesome.
Just wait until a 9-line comes in and they have an eyeball on it and they can see everything going on. And that way the fires, the kinetic fires can be directed at that moment. That's a huge improvement that saves lives.
Absolutely.
It really did.
Yeah. So school, you got your BS from Full Sail University. You got your BS in digital cinematography. You did your thesis with rotation on 3. What you do with it afterwards?
Not much, actually, because I just wanted the degree. I kid you not. I have a $70-some thousand bachelor's degree that's in a FedEx envelope in the garage somewhere. I mean, I used what I learned on top of what I'd already been doing to further trying to tell the stories. And after college, because during college and the GI Bill, you're getting paid to go to school. Well, now I've graduated. Now I'm not getting paid to go to school. Now it's time to get back to a job. And I was looking for video work. I was looking for stuff to do, and I got called about a job, still doing C-130 work, but as an analyst for the company I work for now. So as far as what I do with that degree is I just continue to use what I've learned from school and from experience to create more stories, or even if it's not so much videos, it's how to tell the story.
Right.
I'm working on a story right now that many Marines know, the story of Sergeant Reckless, right? The famous Korean war horse. You know that story, right?
I'm going to embarrass myself right now. I feel like I should, but I don't, Alan.
You have to look that up on your own. She was retired as a staff sergeant from the Marine Corps. Was a famous war horse in the Korean War. Well, she retired in Camp Pendleton, California. Now, how did the horse get from Korea to Camp Pendleton? Can you take a guess?
In the back of a KC-130.
Well, no, this was Korea.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Okay.
One airplane and one boat. The airplane was an R4Q, also known as a C-119 Packet, the flying boxcar, the whistling shit can of death, as veterans have told me.
That was a high wing with 2 engines, right?
Yeah, it looks like the plane from Tailspin.
Did it have a split tail?
Yeah, it had twin boom tail.
Okay.
That I cannot confirm yet which squadron, but I have found the orders directing that this Marine, because that was the flight manifest. This Marine has to be transported via Marine Air on an R4Q from here to here. And because it's a female Marine, proper accommodations on the aircraft must be kept, like proper bathroom facilities, stuff like that. Meanwhile, it's a horse. But the chances are it's either VMR 152 or it's VMR 253.
Yeah, because all those squadrons prior to that's what the KC-130 community came from, right? When the A models or whatever models we first started flying started showing up, we replaced all those flying boxcars, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. All the F models were the replacements for the R4Q1 and the R4Q2s.
One thing I always wanted to ask you, did the Marine Corps ever straight up fly? I know we had the F, which are H's, and, the R's and whatever. Did we ever have any straight up A model aircraft? Like the original OG C-130s, no radome, just the original free prop one? Did we ever have any of those?
Yes. So it depends on how you want to look at it, because like one of the go home early on Friday questions was, what was the first C-130 delivered to the Marine Corps? And some people will either say 572 or 573. 572 was created off the line first, but 573 was delivered first. There was an issue with 572 that it got held back. And not by very long. It was just 573 got delivered first. However, but if you really wanted to say what was the first Marine Corps C-130, it's actually an A model that we bought from the Air Force for test, and this was purely for testing to see, is this airframe going to do what we need it to do? I've got a photo of it where it's like all silver with like red markings, like test paint basically, and it's got 3-bladed props, the old T-56. I think they were T-56 A-15s, if I'm not mistaken, the predecessor to the one that you and I worked on. So yeah, we had at least one A model or C-130A model. Now I have no idea what happened to that aircraft. I could probably track down the Lockheed serial number and go figure it out.
Man, I hope some people are geeking out like this the way I am right now. The way you and I geek out about this, man. But that's cool. It's just something I thought about in the past. I could have found out, but just hearing you tell it, man, that's awesome. It's cool.
At least somebody else geeks out about it, because there's a bunch of those stories about aircraft that I just lose it. When I found out that I got a call from Tony Villa, who you might know.
Oh, Tony, yes.
Years ago, Tony called and said, "Hey, we're taking Bob to the boneyard. It's time. We're stopping by Cherry Point to get gas." And so, I'm in the shop, and
that was a pretty big thing on Facebook. If on the Legends page, if I'm not mistaken, man, that was pretty well documented. Bob. That Bob was going out to Davis Mountain, right?
Yep. So and I hear it. You can hear the distinct sound of 4 blades spinning the flight line, and like, "Hey, we got a plane coming in. Need a taxi." It's like, "No, you sit the fuck down. You're not qualified to taxi that airplane. You don't have anything in your map about legacy aircraft. I'll do it." So I taxied in Bob, and the old airframer Bob Monroe, now a civilian, walks out to the plane. He's just crying, patting it on the nose, talking to the airplane like it's an old friend. Like, "Oh, you have a good time of retirement. I'm going to miss you." Just sobbing.
That freaking airplane, Bob touched everyone, man. I don't care what squadron you were in, what time frame. That freaking Bob touched everybody, man.
Yeah, either good or bad, depending on what time of day it was.
Yeah.
Or Boo.
800.
Boo is here at Cherry Point. The fuselage trainer that is being used today by aircrew in training, that fuselage trainer's serial number is 149800. Boo was resurrected from the boneyard, had its The flight station cut off, it had the wings removed and most of the empennage, and then converted to a J model for the most part. And it now sits fully painted inside the FRD on Cherry Point. And most of those students have no idea the stories behind that aircraft. And you can't tell. Honestly, you can't tell that this was an F model. Not unless you open up the IFR panel in the back. It's the only thing they didn't paint inside the IFR panel. It's all original, except all the grease pencil notes of endearment have been wiped off. But that's all original. Oh, man, it smells like 1964.
Yeah. Incredible. Let me ask you one more geek question, man. If my memory serves me correctly, we had an old Coast Guard 130 that served as the Loadmaster trainer in Cherry Point. Is that correct?
Yep.
Whatever happened to that airframe?
I can't tell you for sure, but I know it's in pieces.
Okay.
Because when I got to Cherry Point, short time after getting here, I was told, hey, you're qualified in the F model. Can you still refuel one? Yeah, but we don't have F models. This is a J model squadron. Well, there's one on the other side of the runway that needs to get defueled. We just found out there's still gas in it. Yeah, but that plane was retired in like 2008, 2007. It's been a minute. It's been sitting there. Does it still have a battery? Is there still a GTC? You know, how am I going to defuel this? Well, I'm probably going to have to do over-the-wing defueling. Oh, great.
It will take a while.
It was 803. The squadron bird for 253 had Atlas in the top of the crew engine store. Well, sitting next to it was that Coast Guard plane you're talking about. It still had a flight station. It had no wings and no like tail, just some of the empennage. And I was told that was the plane that they had was a functional fuselage trainer for like Loadmaster training, loading and unloading and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that whole area now is being reconditioned for some kind of construction. And even a Google Earth, if you look at it, it's gone. It's not there in the images. But there was years ago when I looked at it from Google Earth where you see just like pieces of a C-130. I'm pretty sure they chopped them up on the spot. And now they're just scrap metal.
Yeah. Razor blades.
Yeah. That's the destiny for some of these planes. They chopped up 573.
Yeah.
When we delivered 573 to the boneyard, she had 0 discrepancies. The oldest bird had 0 discrepancies going into the boneyard.
Not a single write-up. It's incredible.
Yeah, we had it printed out and stapled to our power line door. We were pretty damn proud of that. We sent her to the boneyard, MAF free.
So there's one thing I want to talk to you about, and I think this is going to be something that when I reconnected to you, when I connected up, and you started telling me about the Brothers in Arms Foundation and Raider Air and what you've been doing there. This is important. Your work and what Raider Air and what the Brothers in Arms Foundation has been doing. I want to take some time. I want you to tell us about that. And just from the start to where it is today and some of the missions, the lives, families that you all have supported that have been impacted, not only from the tragedies that started the unfortunate need, right? Because we have a hard time taking care of our own. And I'm not talking about the Marine Corps. I'm not talking about guys like you and I. I'm talking about something bigger that needs to get better. And necessity, just want you to tell us about it, Al, please.
This would be hard to get through, but I'll do it. So my involvement with the Brothers in Arms Foundation and Raider Air came from, I was on vacation with my kids in Minnesota for my daughter's birthday in July 2017. I'm at the lake and I get a text message from a friend of mine who says, hey, did you hear what happened? No, what's going on? He said, a bird went down in Mississippi. And I was like, "Oh, hey, hang on, hold on," because a couple of years earlier there was an Air Force plane that went down. And, is it? We know it's ours. And he said, "Yeah, Marine Corps just confirmed it on Twitter. It's ours." I told my dad, "Get the girls. We need to go home. It's going to be a long day." And immediately, being the historian, I have a very long, large Rolodex of people that have my phone number and talk to people. And they all started texting me, calling me, emailing me. And come to find out, it was Triple Nuts that was out of New York, and there was 16 aboard. We had 9 air crew, and 9 of our Marines from VMGR 452, and 7 MARSOC Raiders from 2nd Marine Raider Battalion. And I start with that because it was very personal. I'm just waiting. Like, I know I was still, I've been on the Marine Corps for a little bit, but I had known a lot of the people that were still in. And eventually someone texts me the list, like the flight schedule. And 5 of my friends were on that aircraft. Now, 3 of them, my ex-wife knew, so I had to call her and give her the bad news. And for the next about 7 days while I was up in Minnesota, my phone would not stop ringing with either phone calls, text messages, or emails. And that was from everybody in our community and every news reporter on earth trying to get some insight from the historian of the C-130 community on what happened. And they're all looking for an angle. It's because of the age of these planes, or this or that, or do you know who's on it? And the only interview I gave was to the New York Times, because that guy did not give me the feeling like he was going to post up on somebody's lawn. I didn't tell him anybody was on the plane, but I told him I don't think it was about the age. These planes are actually very young in comparison. The T models are not that old compared to the others. I don't think it's that. And I gave more of an interview about the community and that aircraft, how that aircraft was well loved. Everybody loved Triple Nuts. It was a great plane. Instead of trying to basically give them enough information where they'd post up on somebody's front lawn and start interviewing a widow, stuff like that. Once I get home, we start planning the funerals, and I was able to make it up to Arlington Cemetery to witness the burial of Gunnery Sergeant Hopkins. And I arrive in the hotel, and this entire hotel is floor to ceiling with Marines. And we're all just doing what we would do. We're drinking, we're playing in the pool, they're telling stories, they're playing cards, doing everything. And this little boy starts getting passed around to people's laps. And so I just get this little 2-year-old and bounce him on my knee. And, hey, whose kid is this? Man, that's Hoppy's son. Now, when I knew Hoppy, he didn't have kids. He wasn't even married yet. The first time I get to meet his kids and his wife, Patricia, are at the funeral. And I'm trying to hold my composure, and then I'm witnessing my friends, some of them I haven't seen since Okinawa, and we're all trying very hard to manage everything go on. I actually shaved my face and put on my dress blues to witness him being buried. I didn't know that the next day Gunnery Sergeant Brennan Johnson was being buried the very next day. If I had known that, I would have stayed an extra day. So the funerals took a month. It took a month to bury everyone. And I don't just mean the C-130 squadron. I mean, including the MARSOC Raiders, it took over a month. Various places around the country and the cremations and whatnot. The squadron was shut down. They're eventually allowed to do a flyover, had a ceremony up there and stuff like that. And then I'm connecting with this group out in Mississippi. This guy that was, he's in the Marine Corps League of Mississippi. He's asking me about how that out there in that community where the plane went down in Edabena, they want to do something. They want to put up a plaque along the highway that talks about, what happened here, because what that community provided during the crash and the fire and the investigation following was immense. That little town provided so much love and support.
I mean, that is just a massive recovery effort, though, too. I mean, you got the aircraft, you got the loss of life, and no community wants that, right? They're not expecting that.
There was two major crash sites, debris, in like a 5 nautical mile radius all around each crash site. To my knowledge, the only thing that they have not found that was on the aircraft that was serialized is I think they're still missing a pistol. But they were finding pieces of that aircraft like 30 feet down that had embedded that far, and bodies scattered everywhere. And this is a very small town. And I'm connecting with these guys and tell them, like, yeah, let's do. I'm all in on this. Let's do something. Put up a plaque or something like that. Helping them verify the names. Got to get that right. You don't want a name misspelled and a family see that. And then they evolved it into, we're going to make a memorial. And they came up with a design that's like 30 feet wide. It's got like the top-down view of a C-130, the names all around it. And it started becoming bigger and bigger, and raising the money for it. It was daunting. It's like $180,000 or something like that. And they did it in like 4 months.
It's incredible. The memorial's stunning. We're going to put it up so people can see, man, but it's just absolutely, I mean, it's deserving. So it's stunning.
And we set a date and we met the date on time where it was completed. We invited everybody out. We had the governor of Mississippi. We had like a senator or a congressman. We had several people. We had he had just transferred, but he was the general that was in charge of MARSOC. He showed up. General Mundy, whose father was a commandant, if I remember. I could be wrong, but his father was also a general.
Yeah, no, General Mundy was the commandant when I joined.
Okay, well, his son was the general in charge of like all MARSOC and stuff like that. I mean, it was a huge event, and just so much love and support, and all the families. And where Brothers Arms comes in is they were going to document, like do a video documentary about the memorial, and not so much the memorial, because, and man, if this doesn't get people to just choke up, I don't know what could make you choke up, because the widows were going to fly to Mississippi, which, mind, getting on an airplane after their husbands died in one. They're going to fly to Mississippi, and they're going to walk 900 miles home. The widows and current and former members of Marine Special Operations Command flew to Mississippi. They were there for the dedication memorial, and not but 3 minutes after the memorial had been dedicated and everybody's just walking around doing stuff, they got down and did 25 and 5 push-ups, got back up and said, let's go. And they walked 900 miles home.
22, 23, 24, 25. United States Marine home. Yankee 72 cover.
All right, let's bring them home.
And they were documenting the whole thing. They had like 3 or 4 people that were doing video, and along the way, they were talking to somebody about, hey, we got to find someone that can edit this and put it all together, because it's a big project. And if memory serves, it just so happens that the person that they were talking to said, I know a guy. You need to talk to Alan Stinar. Not only does he do this kind of work, it's personal. And sure enough, the director of the film contacted me, kind of did like an interview, seeing some of my work and hearing about it, and then sent me all the materials after they were done. And I started working through editing this film. That proceeds from the film was going to go towards helping the Brothers in Arms Foundation in what it does which is primarily to support the Marine Special Operations community and their families and raise awareness for this kind of stuff, for what they do. And that was single-handedly probably one of the hardest things ever, man. I had to make a rule because I'm not a big drinker, but if I'm doing something on the computer, I'll have a glass here. There, I had to make a rule that I'm not drinking during filming or I'm editing, because I could easily see myself becoming an alcoholic while editing that film. I spent almost 2 months just editing the scene where they do the knock on the doors. But every time I get up, I'd be watching like how far I've gone in the editing process. And then I get to that scene where it's the knock. And then the very next part is where it talks about how, that all 16 men perished and took a month for them to bury them. I just couldn't get over it. And the music, because I'm very big on how I edit with using music to edit the feeling. I wanted the public to feel like I did. Like you lost 5 friends or your husband or your wife on that incident. But I wanted them to feel that grief. And then I wanted them to see the resilience of the families and friends and the joyous, funny moments on the march home and the victory that they had just finished 900 miles of walking across half the country. And I think I did it. And after that, I got the phone call of, if there's any other projects that come up, we're going to call you. And I didn't really know what that would entail. But I started working closer with the Brothers in Arms Foundation to help them raise money, making videos for them. And I was asked to join the Raider Air team, which is their aviation element. And what they do is when the government cannot financially or feasibly get a family moved for travel after the death of a soldier, sailor, airman, that's where we can step in. So as an example, after the fall of Kabul in 2021, we were notified really quickly that an impending mission might be required. Now, this is still kind of, it's still kind of COVID time, right? So it's tougher. Air travel is a little bit tougher. And this is a high profile thing. The president's going to be there at Dover, stuff like that. We need these families there ASAP. And it just wasn't going to work out to do it commercially. So we got the call. Can you do it? Of course we can. We have the resources and the connections to make it work. And within 48 hours, I got on a flight. I got an American Airlines flight out of New Bern, flew to Vegas. Then I got on a private aircraft, flew to Palm Springs, then flew to Chino, picked up 2 of the families, and we flew from California all the way to Dover nonstop in a private aircraft. That way they could avoid all the people at the airports and flying coach and the emotions. I cannot and will not speak about the things that transpired inside that aircraft, but I will say it was extremely emotional and everybody could understand that.
It's such a huge service, right? You have grieving families of those that were killed at Abbey Gate in such a senseless and useless preventable act. And to subject those families to commercial aviation and everything that's entailed to it here in the United States, for Raider Air to recognize that those families deserve more than that. That is just, that is something that I think about, man. That is something that I think is very, very honorable on the part of the mission of Raider Air. We have these people that are going through this. What can we do to make it easier? And I think why don't you tell us about the logistics, how you guys get together with private aircraft owners, how it's all put together, the volunteer Air Force so to speak, that the Brothers in Arms Foundation has, because I think that needs to be explained, because we have incredible patriots out there that are well enough off that they want to support Raider Air, and they're willing to do it. And I think they need some attention, man.
About how much I should say. I mean, I've been told I can, but
we don't need to get into details. We don't need to get into their financials. We don't need to get who they are, but just just a scope of.
In a way, it's hard to explain. So, my first mission with Raider Air was after the AAV sunk off the coast of San Clemente in 2020, and we did the same thing. We showed up to. We flew into Miramar in a donated aircraft, picked up 60 Marines, said, everything's taken care of, just get in. And we flew them around the country to the funerals. I mean, imagine being a Lance Corporal and you've got 6 funerals to go to. You can't afford that. We showed up to Miramar. We flew a private airplane onto a military base, all authorized and official, and said, hop in. We got the rest. You just need to get in. Get in and behave yourself. Flew them around the country. And we kind of adopted, there's a couple of mottos in a way. We adopted the idea of, how do you do what you do? Like 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, whatever it takes. I mean, we were in Bellingham, Washington. We had a very short timetable to do this, bring the Marines to the service and then get back to the aircraft before the aircraft pilots and the crew, before the clock ran out for FAA rules, right? We had a short time window. And in the middle of this, find out the parents of Lance Corporal Jack Ryan Ostrovsky have invited the Marines over to a house to have cheeseburgers and lunch. And we have a short window. So how do you get from here to the other side of the city and then to the airplane all in the nick of time? Our team lead just starts walking up to the sheriff's deputies and the police and starts talking to them and says, this is what we need. What can you do? We got you. We were doing a pretty decent speed through town with a full police escort and the Marines in the back. They're from that unit. They were just amazed. They're like, man, all this just for us to get back to the airplane? I said, no, this is to go get cheeseburgers. We'll get to the airplane and hopefully in time. We rolled them all off the bus, did a pretty much walk through and ate everything in sight and got right back in the bus, got back to the airplane, took off for the next flight. It's whatever it takes, because we have all the people that donate to the Brothers in Arms Foundation. They're what makes it possible, where whatever it takes is what we can pull. We make good with our connections. We make good with logistics. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had to rent 15 cars from one rental company, but I have. Normally, you can only rent one. But you talk to the right people, you introduce yourself, tell them the mission, what you're doing.
Give them the why.
What can we do? I know it's not normal. I apologize. What can we do? We can't land our airplane at Dover Airfield. Well, we can't park it at Dover Airfield, but we can park it on the north side of the airfield. Okay, well, how do we get the families from the north side of the airfield off base? Well, we go get the rental cars and we drive every one of those things all the way around Perimeter Road. And the family doesn't know. They don't see the logistics.
No, they just see a seamless operation, right?
What they see is, well, to be honest, I can only hope that they see that they were just well taken care of, because I'm pretty sure their mind was on other things. We had that Osprey crash, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
Out in Australia. The family, the wife and her 3 little girls, they're all under the age of 7. Could you imagine trying to fly coach from Hawaii to Dover with 3 little girls? You already got to leave at 4:00 in the afternoon. You're going to arrive in LA or Texas at 11 o'clock at night because of the time difference, something like that. Then you have to stay overnight. You have to get on another plane and you have to get connection. all while you have everything going on of trying to manage yourself, your children, and all that
And
is
the
to
grief.
come.
And the grief.
And the grief. Versus we show up with a aircraft in Hawaii that has already been tailored for that family. They're little kids. We make sure that the Wi-Fi works. We make sure that we got some little teddy bears. They're a health-conscious family. We get some healthy snacks. And it's an 8-hour flight nonstop from Honolulu straight to Dover. We'll try to make them as a comfortable ride as we can give them. Versus sitting in a coach with all those people and all that craziness. It's more private. It's more where they're more well taken care of. And they could have flown commercial, and I understand why the commercial way of doing that through the military is required and not like first class. But some of that stuff is just bad. And to see what we can do to take care of them and get them there on time, it makes a difference, especially when the people that are escorting you and ferrying you on these flights, they've been through it. This is not the last mission I did. The wife asked me, is this your first time doing this? And I said, unfortunately, no, ma'am, it's not. And I just want to do what I can to take care of you. What do you need? Because it's those things that the military doesn't think about. What if your kids don't do showers? They do baths only, but you're in a hotel that the military uses for these families, and the hotel doesn't have bathtubs. They have only showers. Well, that's tough. That just threw your day out, maybe, because it's a disruption to your life. It's not normally a big disruption, but it is this time. Did you forget anything? We'll go to Target. Or do you want to go to Target? We'll go to Target. We'll get whatever you need. Do you want to just go for a walk? One of our team members will more than happily go for a nice long walk and just talk about your faith if that's what you want. It's honestly, man, it's kind of hard to describe. It's just that the donations and the people that provide either money, materials, or connections, it is invaluable. So when the next time I get a message that we have something going on, I know I don't have to worry about most of the logistics. I just make the phone calls and coordinate it. At Dover, I don't have to worry about rental cars. It'll get taken care of as far as paid for, but I don't have to worry about, I need 10 cars. I call up the right people in Dover and say, I really apologize. I talked to them first. How's your family doing? Your son, remember last time we talked, he was sick. Is he doing okay? Is he doing better? Oh, good. I talked to them for a bit, like they're friends, because they've done good things for us. And then asked them, I hate to tell you this, but this is what happens. Within 48 hours, I need 10 cars. Can you drop them off on base, or do we have to pick them up at, the rental company? And to coordinate stuff like that. Or police escorts. One of our team members is Lance Corporal Jack Ryan Ostrovsky's father, who's a former federal agent. What a connection that is to have, where he knows how to talk the lingo to federal agents or to the local police. It really helps when you are a former federal guy, right? And he's a Gold Star father. He can have conversations we can't. Because you know how it is when people say, I understand. Do you? Have you lost your son in a AAV that sunk off the coast of California? Did you lose your son in an aircraft crash? Careful to say, I understand, because it means something different to everybody. And he can say to a point that he's been through this process going to Dover.
There's a way to tell people when you hear, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. And you're like, no, there is something you can do. And if you frame that right and you deliver that right, you get their buy-in. So it's invaluable that you have those type of people and those type of connections and those type of communicators, man.
Yeah. Normally you would think that you can't land a private aircraft at Miramar, Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. Well, that's what you think, but what it actually requires is permission. You just got to have the right paperwork, the right credentials, the right flight clearances, obviously. Our crews are all flight qualified to do that stuff. And have the right phone number to call someone that you've worked with to have a connection to say, all I need is to land at the airfield and have some air stairs. I don't even need gas. I just need to park, have some stairs, let Marines get on. I'll be back in a week and I'll let them off. I ain't worried about gas.
And you know what? And just so the viewers and the listeners understand, we're not just talking about Cessna 172s here, right? I mean,
No,
you guys have access to an incredible fleet. I mean, you guys got turbine powered private jets all the way up to, I think you told me you guys got a 737 at your disposal too if needed, correct? Privately owned one?
It's not necessarily at our disposal. It's thanks to the friendships we have with companies, and we've developed a good rapport with them. And I'm not naming any names here because I don't want them to. I've met a lot of these folks, and I know that they like to keep that private.
Yep.
Whether they own an aircraft or make the donation, or the companies that support us, they like to keep that private. And it's very admirable what they do.
Absolutely.
I can't say it enough just how amazing it is that when I've been around those folks, to hear their generosity, their intelligence, their connections. And it's all, as one of our mottos is, it's all from the shadows. Like, you have no idea who in the shadows has been more than willing to call up somebody and say, I want to help. What can I do? And it doesn't matter what level that they can provide of help. What can I do? The Kabul mission, I can say that when we got to, I think it was Chino, it's the Flying Tigers FBO. The owner comes out and tells us, we get off the plane, we're going to go meet the family in a second, and tells all of us, hey guys, real sorry, you got to do what you got to do today. Want to let you know, my name's so-and-so, I own the FBO. Anything you want, hats, shirts, drinks, cookies, whatever, it's yours. Just take it up to one of the girls up front, tell them you're with this plane here, I'll take care of it. I've already taken care of the family, so you shouldn't need anything else for them. They can have whatever they want as well. And our pilot hands over like the gas card, to pay for gas. And he goes, no offense, but you're already doing enough. I'll pay for the gas. I mean, gas is for avgas is what? It's pretty close to like regular gasoline, maybe $1 more. That's a lot of gas. That's several $1,000s in gas in one shot, and you've already done enough. I'll pay for it.
Incredible.
That alone, that's what he could do. Not much you can do, because I assure you, there's nothing you can really do for that family right now. It's not going to be any better.
What are you doing going forward, Alan?
I still work on the C-130 program as an analyst for the company I'm with. So I still kind of see how things are changing today with our aircraft and helping maintain that. That way, the mission keeps going forward. Working on my website. It's been a long hiatus because my historical database is roughly 22.5 terabytes of photo, video, documents, all kind of stuff, and trying to find a way
Is this the Battle Herc site you're speaking of?
Yeah, the Marine Battle Herc project. Trying to get that also that way it's accessible. If you want to go see some old photos, either if it's from your time frame, if it's from the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, how about the commanding officer in 1939 of that would have been VMJ-2, which is now 252. The commanding officer teaching a younger pilot how to box in front of the barracks, teaching them hand-to-hand combat, trying to present those stories. The TWA flight where a guy hijacked the airplane demanding money from the government, and turns out the pilot was from VMJ 152, served in World War II, and had served with the president, who ironically the hijacker wanted money from. stuff like that. The stories that are out there, trying to compose all of that into a website where people can access it and look at those stories and create more historical videos about some things. I could put out a video telling people, no, I still don't have any idea where the name Otis came from. It's a mystery. No, it's not from the elevator. No, it's not from Otis the Town Drunk. No idea.
Those are only two stories I ever heard, man. The town drunk in the elevator. We take shit up, we take shit down, and we're with 252, and we do a lot of drinking. So those are only two stories I ever heard, man. And I just thought they were it.
I say it means what you want it to mean.
Yeah.
If you want it to be because of the town drunk, then that's what it is. If it's because of the elevator, that's odd, but okay. It's for the elevator. It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. I want to commend you, Alan, for coming on here. We covered a lot. I know that there was a lot more we could have gotten into, and I don't care, man. 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you get an idea. You want to do a recap. You want to do a 15, 20, 30 minute something else. Call me, text me. We'll set it up. The work that you're doing with preserving the legacy, preserving the memories, preserving the facts, it's commendable. So thank you. Thank you. And then from the Shadows work, with Raider Air, the Brothers in Arms Foundation. Wow. I want you to tell us what the viewers of the podcast, what the supporters of the Miles Gregarius Foundation can do for you.
I ask anybody that's listening to, look at the Brothers in Arms Foundation or BIAF.org. And consider making a donation to them, because what that donation does, or if they have an aircraft and pilots that they could provide on missions that we could call on when necessary, that would just go a long way. And to share your stories. I appreciate you for pulling me out of my comfort zone. I'm always behind the camera. I'm behind the scenes of whether it's Raider Air or it's the history stuff. I'm not really in front of the camera that much. So it's a little nerve-wracking, to be honest. It's quite anxiety, especially since a lot of this is personal. My history is woven in and out of the history itself of the C-130 community, and also literally found out last year that I'm actually, it's distant, but I'm like the sixth cousin of one of the fallen from basketball 814. The Master Gunnery Sergeant. Master Gunnery Sergeant Hersey is actually a cousin of mine, distant, but still related. And finding that out, and then at the VMJ Memorial, the family, when they found that out, they gave me like a pin that has Master Gunnery Hersey's face on it. There's only about 4 photos of him. And kind of accepting me as extended family of theirs, sharing these stories, whether it's your story or whether it's the story about your fallen friends, how important that is, because that makes the difference. And whether it's my friends or it's your friends, don't tell me how they died. I'm very aware, and I can look it up for myself, how they died. Tell me how they lived. That scene, it hit hard, really, really hard. Watching the movie Taking Chance, well before doing any of this, and then watching it after, it hits different to hear the words, "You're his witness now." Without a witness, they would disappear.
You know what I did before my current career? And I was there. I was at that company. We arranged flights in and out of Dover for the families, man. Alan, I could only watch that movie. I can't watch it again. I can't. And I'm tearing up about it right now. And you're right.
It's different, don't it?
It God damn, it does. I can't watch it again. I recommend it.
Oh,
If I do watch that movie, I gotta be alone. I can't.
My own sister, during Christmas, she asked me, how close is that to the real thing? And I said, I've never personally escorted a body, but I've flown families to Dover. And I've flown around the country with Marines that knew all of them. I've been to those funerals. I have picked up handfuls of dirt and laid it on caskets in Texas and around the country. I've drank with the families. I had a 93-year-old grandmother ask me if I wanted a beer and then handed me hers because she hadn't opened it yet. She wanted to take care of me. I was trying to do everything I could to take care of her. You share their stories and keep talking about them, not as if they're dead, but if they were alive. And you try not to mourn. And this is really hard to say because it's tough to express it. Take the time you need to mourn, but also take the time to remember that you need to live. As I said to you earlier in this whole podcast, I'm fortunate to be 40 years old, almost 41. I have friends that never lived to be 41. I have almost not been able to live to the age of 41. So what are you going to do with it? If there's any veterans out there that are finding it really hard to struggle and struggling through life, find purpose again. We don't have the military anymore. Find purpose again. Join a group like Brothers in Arms Foundation or another veteran group. Go out there and do things for your community and take care of other people. Go be of service again. What you can do. Team Rubicon looks, I haven't looked real hard into it, but Team Rubicon looks like it'd be a great thing.
Yeah, we had a big partnership with them when I was with Team RWB, man, and that Team Rubicon, wow. Outstanding.
In a way like them, that's why I got picked for the team, I think, because what is the C-130? What's the C-130 guy but logistics? That's what we do. It's logistics. What do you need moved? What do you need to get gassed?
Put it together.
Yeah, and we put it together, we make it work. But be of service and try to do something. Because in some ways, many veterans, including myself, I don't know about you, but we've all been in dark places. I've never felt more alive than when I was providing, service and aid to others, especially on those missions. I felt more like I was right back in the military. And again, that mindset of I'm helping, I'm doing something. Everyone around in the country is saying, I wish I could do something for those families, but I'm one of the few that's able to do something. Whether you donate, whether you pitch in actual work you could do, provide logistics, do something and take care of your community.
Alan, I love to have you here, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Please, anytime you want to come back on. My promise is you'll always have a home here, man. You'll always have a spot here on the podcast, man. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the stories. And thank you for the time, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
I want to have you back on. So please, my connection to you, the podcast will always be open. And hell, man, let's shoot for an episode further down the line. What do you say? Maybe episode 100, see how it turns out.
Sounds good to me.
All right, man. So thanks again, Alan. Thanks everyone for coming back to the Not So Special Forces podcast. Thank you, Alan. Again, I'm going to have some links on the bottom of the video here, so you can take a look at the Brothers in Arms Foundation, Raider Air, and also the memorial for the air crew and the aircraft and the MARSOC operators we lost out in Mississippi. Once again, guys, thank you for coming back to the Not So Special Forces podcast. That is it. We are feet dry. We are return to base. Thanks, everyone.
Vehicle are taking fire on primary and secondary positions, requesting immediate